Welcome to the Goffstown Board of Selectmen's meeting, December 5th, 2011. And our first item will be the Pledge of Allegiance. If all rise, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. First item is the acceptance, correction of the minutes of 11/21/2011 and 11/28/2011.
Motion to accept the minutes for November 21st, 2011.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Seconded by David Pierce. Any discussion, corrections, amendments? Steve? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, thank you. And November 28th, do we have a motion, or will we hold off? Not hearing a motion, we'll put that off to 6:05. We have some announcements. We have one announcement from the Goffstown Police Department, which is a news release. It's the Goffstown Police Department wishes to remind the residents of the existing town ordinance on alarm systems. The alarm permits are valid from January 1st to the December 31st each year. Alarm permits must be resubmitted for approval prior to December 31st of the current year, which is 2011. Just to remember that there is no fee to obtain an alarm permit. Article 3, Section 300.1, Title Alarm Ordinance states that no person shall install, maintain, or operate an alarm system in the town of Goffstown without obtaining a permit. Any person who operates an alarm system without first obtaining a permit as required by the ordinance, or who operates an alarm system when such permit has been revoked, shall be guilty of a violation, and upon conviction thereof shall be fined not less than $100. And upon application, the chief of police for the town of Goffstown is authorized to issue a permit to any applicant to install, maintain, and operate upon property within the town of Goffstown. Residents and business owners shall be accountable for violation of this ordinance. If you need additional information, please go to the website www.goffstownpolice.com/ordinances/alarm_ordinance.html. The complete town ordinance flow chart of owner responsibility as well as permit applications can be found at the website. Any questions? You could also call the business number at the Goffstown Police Department at 497-4858. Thank you. And I know we have another one from Lieutenant Connor.
Yes, this is addressed to the chairman from Lieutenant Bill Connor from the Fire Department. Please accept this letter of appreciation and recognition of the efforts of the following firefighters who joined me at the Autism Awareness event held at the Goffstown Police Station on November 16th. Full-time firefighter Joey Boucher and call firefighters Ed Hannigan and Josh Hart each volunteered an evening of their personal time to be available to help children and families of our community with special challenges. On that rainy Wednesday night, we presented Engine 1 and Ambulance 2, as well as the Regional Fire Safety Trailer as part of the larger event. The families that we interacted with had the opportunity to speak with the firefighters and see our vehicles up close in a friendly, non-emergency setting, which will make it easier for both us and those families should they need our services at a later date. The event provided a learning opportunity for both the kids and our personnel. We obtained insight as to what a particular child is concerned with, how they respond to stressful situations, and what they know about emergency responders. Joey, Josh, and Ed helped provide the families with the knowledge that in an emergency they can be assured that the Goffstown Fire Department will provide professional, friendly, and effective service when they call for us. I would also like to thank Communications Specialist Heidi Roberge and Captain Rob Brown for organizing this annual event. Sincerely, Lieutenant Bill Connor. So thank you to those firefighters.
Yep, thank you very much for a job well done. Thank you. Do we have any other public announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comment at this point. On the meeting, we entertain comments from members of the public for items that are not further on the agenda, or if they are, have an appointment scheduled with the board. So at this point, I'll ask if there's anybody here who would like to make a public comment. Are you here for public comment or for the public hearing?
Well, the public hearing is for the,
That's at 6:30. That's an agenda item,
sounds good.
okay?
I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay, so if we have no members of the public who want to make a comment at this point, we are going to, the next scheduled item is the public hearing at 6:30. Since that's scheduled for 6:30, we'll move on to the town administrator's report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your weekly meeting schedule, it looks like a busy week for you, is published in your packet. Also, talking about schedules, I assume that the board will not be meeting between Christmas and New Year's. Christmas is on a Sunday this year, so the holiday is Monday. Will you be taking off that day, the 26th?
Well, traditionally, we don't meet between that
Right.
because members do tend to travel
Mhm.
on occasion. But if we need to have a meeting after the first, we could have a meeting perhaps maybe Wednesday.
Wednesday would be the best because Tuesday is ZBA. And Wednesday, there's EDC, but they're small enough to go into the other room, I think.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody? All right.
So Wednesday,
First
Right.
Wednesday.
First Wednesday,
First
6
Wednesday.
o'clock? Is 6 o'clock okay?
What date is
January.
that?
January, that's the 4th.
Be,
What?
yeah, January 4th,
Okay.
okay? 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yes.
I may not be there, but
Is it a
Personal
matter of
reasons.
time on that day, or is it the day?
it's a family thing.
Okay, not a problem. Okay.
Okay. Your consensus folder tonight includes AP warrants, employee status reports, and appointment papers.
We have a motion?
Motion to accept the consensus folder.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. The assessor recommends veterans' tax credits on map 22, lot 6, map 7, lot 82-1, map 7, lot 44, and map 8, lot 5-5-4.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you. Parks and Rec has a contract for the future mixed-use recreation complex and a request to release recreation impact fees. That request is in your packet. It's to release the $8,000 in recreation impact fees to employ the services of Huntress Associates to lead a public hearing information night and provide drawings for developing the former Barnard Perry land into multi-use recreational facility. On August 1st, the board had voted 3-2 to waive the purchasing policy and sole source this design to Huntress and to authorize the use of up to $10,000 in Parks and Rec impact fees in 2011 if possible, if not, then for 2012.
Okay.
So 2 motions are needed, one for the contract with Huntress, and second to release the $8,000 recreation impact fees.
Okay. We have discussed this as it was stated in the past. So with that, is there,
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we authorize the chair to sign the contract with Huntress Associates.
Second.
is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, it's
4-1.
4-1-0.
And that'll be the same reasons that I voted no in August.
Okay, and we need another motion?
A motion that that we release $8,000 in recreational impact fees to pay for the report and the facilitation of the project.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
It's 4-1-0.
Thank you. New Hampshire DMV requires that the municipal agents apply for an annual contract to act as a New Hampshire boat agent. This annual process requires a letter of authorization from the municipality. Motion is needed to authorize Town Clerk Kathy Ball as a municipal agent for boats.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you. The board had requested volunteer application forms at the 8/22 meeting. And this really should apply just to the community representatives, I believe, and they are finally all in, and the Friends of the Greenway. So the appointments should, I guess they're annual appointments for everyone, though, but most of these are staff. But the community reps would be Denise Langley, John Stafford, and then the Friends of the Greenway would be Ray Tabor and Lowell Von Ruden. Would you like me to read all the staff people also?
I don't think it's necessary,
Okay.
because we're only dealing with the appointments.
Right.
Okay, Nick?
So I have a the only question I have, so these are the only volunteer applications that we receive for those positions?
Yes,
Yes. I
and
believe that's
there
so.
are 2 community reps on that committee, and 2 positions for Friends of the
Right.
Rail
Okay.
Trail.
Rail Trail now, that's right, it's no longer Greenway.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, it's not green anymore.
Cutting back too much.
All the trees are gone.
Yeah, and the grass is brown, right?
But we do appointment papers for all the staff too, so
Right.
that's why
Okay.
they're all listed here.
Any other discussion on this? Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the Rail Trail annual appointments.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Just as an FYI, the City and Town Clerks Association has appointed Kathy Ball to the Electronic Vehicle Registration Advisory Group as a at-large town representative.
Okay.
We, last session, we put her name into the
Right.
candidate category, so
They did
she
choose
was
her.
selected. That's good.
Right, yeah, it is, okay. And we had that other form that I submitted from Southern New Hampshire Planning. That was supposed to go up for requesting for a volunteer.
I didn't see that. I'm just getting back from vacation today, so.
Okay, well, I
Okay.
handed it into the assistant town administrator
Okay.
at a meeting, and it was for.
Is this for the annual appointments?
No, this was for a committee dealing with Comcast and, not specifically dealing.
Broadband?
Yeah, with
Broadband.
broadband for that, and I think, it was the end of December, I believe, that they needed the name. But I'm not sure of the date, because I handed it in.
So they're looking for a representative from Goffstown on this committee?
Somebody, right.
Staff or at-large or
As,
from the
as
community?
appointed by they're looking for it from the Board of Selectmen. Whoever,
So
but
you
take
want to post it as an,
was supposed to have been put on the website.
oh, I can check. I didn't,
Okay, well,
this is the
so,
first I'm hearing of it.
well, then we'll need to know if there's anything for next meeting
Okay.
on that, okay? And is that the end of the town administrator's report?
That is. Only also to note that I sent you an email today. We did get a response from the Postal Service, and that they will be revisiting the zip code issue in Goffstown, and I think we should form a committee of residents in that area to work with staff on
Well, we did have a
this.
committee, and I think Felix Polchak should be contacted, because he was the chairman.
Okay, and should we contact others too?
Right, the other members, but Felix Polchak was the chairman of the committee.
But should we reach out to all the residents and see if any others want to serve on this committee besides Felix? I mean, I can call Felix.
Well, it all depends on how, that's gonna be up to the board. I'm just saying that we had a committee that had, I was a selectman's rep, and there were 3 citizens.
Do you remember the 3 citizens?
Well, one was Lionel Coulon, and the other one was, do you remember the name?
William was on with us.
Who?
Lillian and I both were on, my wife, Felix.
And there was a other woman.
You know, I don't think she lives in Goffstown anymore.
Okay, well,
She moved out.
that could be. Okay, well, Felix will know.
Okay. All right. So the board's not opposed to setting up a committee to work on this?
No.
Okay, so I will try
Encourage
to
the,
recruit.
encourage the public
Right.
information on the zip code issue and participation and feedback.
Thank you.
Okay. And what I can do is we'll try to get a hold of those members that were on there and be in touch with them to move it along a little bit.
Would the chairman like to continue to work on this project?
I will for now,
You will for now?
okay? That's the end of the town administrator's report?
Yes.
Okay, since we are ahead of schedule on the public hearing for 6:30, what we'll do is move on to selectmen discussion. Do we have any new business?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And it's, would be a follow-on report to my committee report under Rail Trail. So if you would allow me to say 30 seconds of feedback on the committee, and then I'll lead into the new discussion. Thank you.
Is
The,
that gonna lead into a half-hour discussion by the board? We only have 10 minutes.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
The town's Rail Trail Committee met last Friday, and the one item on the agenda was to review a project site that would be accomplished by next year's grant from the, if we were successful, from next year's grant from the New Hampshire Trails Bureau, Recreational Trails Program. The committee endorsed the project sites that we would like to perform under this grant. The town engineer estimated the cost of the project at $29,000 in cash. That could, because it would be accomplished by contract. The issue at hand is that the grant would cover 80% of that cash requirement, $23,200. I have been offered that, so the issue is how to raise the other 20% of the cash. The nonprofit organization Friends of the Rail Trail have offered to cover 10% of the grant, so that's $2,800 in cash, which leaves $2,800 still left to be covered in some fashion. And when the committee is in the process of finalizing the actual grant application to be presented to this board, we endorsed the presentation of that grant application to this board. In the grant, we have to state where the money is coming from. And there's several options that could underwrite the remaining 10% of the grant. Once again, $2,800. Okay, one option is that there could be a town article asking the voters to appropriate $29,000, which would be then be funded by the 80-10-10 concept. 80 from the state grant, 20 from a donation, and 10% property tax. To that extent, I did draft a proposed article, but, you know, we're not in deliberation for proposed articles. That's just could be for review at this point in time. Another option is a town article that could provide a capital improvement fund. Did I say that correctly? Capital
Reserve Fund.
Capital Reserve Fund for trail improvements, in anticipation that some point in the future there's grants that could be applied for. Another option is that work on the trail would be allowed if we were to recommend a fee on vehicle registrations, which is allowed by RSA, anywhere from $1, $2, up to $5. Fourth option would be Park Impact Fee Fund. I think I exhausted, those are the four options. So, when the committee would like to know how this board would like to lean on this issue, a consensus of the board as to how to state in the application the funding of the remaining $2,800.
Okay, well, I'll say, since I've been on the board since the beginning of the rail trail, my recollection is that the Board of Selectmen always represented that rail trail was not intended to have taxpayer dollars in it, outside of whatever we appropriated for the acquisition of it. I understand times change, and I understand boards of selectmen change. But I, for myself, would not be inclined to ask the voters to put money into the rail trail, and I would not be inclined to ask people who register their vehicles to pay a fee for that. Again, that's my 1/5 view.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Where do we stand on the other grant that we received, the crossings and where's that project?
There are two grants that have been approved and are under work at this point in time, under contract. One is a 2011 Recreational Trails Grant from the state, and the money from that grant is being used by Public Works to purchase materials and supplies necessary for improvement of about a quarter of a mile of trail. The labor and equipment is by DPW.
Will that work occur next year?
It's 80% done as I speak.
Gotcha.
Under
Okay.
the last 2.5 weeks. And they're about to wrap up this week and then go into a winter shutdown. And then next summer, they'll do some asphalting for parking spaces and put in some bollards at trailheads. The roads this project touches is Danish Park Road, Morgan Circle, and Lynchville Park Road. The other grant that is under work is the Federal Transportation Enhancement Grant, 4 project sites, carrying the trail over the gully, which is the former Henry Bridge Road, and providing safer crossings of 3 busy roads, 2 of them Mass Road, 1 of them Henry Bridge Road. A firm has been hired to do the design, and that same firm would have a contract to supervise the construction. The actual construction would be a third contract. That's the
When is
status.
that anticipated?
The RFP to hire the construction contracting firm would be next summer.
Ask you a question? Answered your
Yes,
question?
it did. Thank you.
Any other questions of David? We have 5 minutes, 4 minutes. Any further discussion on this item? Okay. Any other new business?
Well, I'm still left hanging here, Mr. Chair. How would I know your feelings, but perhaps out of other discussion here, if my view on one of those options is Park Impact Fee Fund, I would not like to go that route because that fund has helped 2 of our previous grants. And I just don't feel comfortable going back in for, even though this is a very small amount, going back in again for tapping that source of funding.
Well, I guess I'll jump in, just put where I am on a couple of these. I do agree with, regarding the vehicle registrations, I don't think that I am not in favor of going through vehicle registrations. I'm also not in favor of the Parks and Rec fee being prior history and how much was removed from during the last set of it. And I don't know if you had spoken to them, I'm sure the Parks and Rec Committee, I don't know if they would be agreeable to that or not either. Regarding the article itself, what was your committee's thought on the article?
I believe the motion was to approve the grant application contingent upon a source of funding for the 20%. Subsequent that, the Friends of the Rail Trail came forward with a motion from their board of directors to contribute half of the 20%.
No, though, you're talking 29,000 you had started with, and that's to do exactly what?
The construction projects would be put in 6 to 7 bollards and trail improvements just in the trailhead vicinity from the public road. You know, the first 80 or 100 feet, improve the trail, put in the bollards. Any remaining signage that might be there. The other part of that project is to improve almost 500 feet of trail that's west of the Shell station near Tato Drive. It's an area that is particularly sandy, very hard for bicycle wheels to have good traction and steering.
I would like to say this, the job that's been done on the rail and the trail, the work and effort that you and the committee has put forward, the amount of money that's been brought in, it's fantastic. And I'd like to go forward and support this, because you're talking $2,800. I mean, when you start looking for that, you apply for a grant, and then the group comes up with a certain point. I feel there's something about there for $2,800 that we shouldn't sit here and wait to let a process like this go forward. I don't know if you explain what the bollards are, but those are those big pins that come out so you can remove the center one. I think there's a part there.
6:30,
Okay, then we'll
we're gonna
stop.
have to suspend this
I
discussion.
saw that coming, I looked at the clock. I would like to come
We'll
back, I
continue.
would like to come back
It
to
was
this.
exactly what I said. Was this gonna generate more than 10 minutes
Yes, it
discussion
was.
by the
Well, I
board?
mean,
So especially when we have a full board,
All right.
okay? 6:30, one item that we have is a public hearing, town administrator versus the town manager. This is not a public hearing that is required by statute or anything. It's a public hearing, second of actually 2 public hearings that have been put together by the Board of Selectmen to get some citizen input regarding discussion that the board has had to go forward with a warrant article to change the form of government that we have to include a town manager, which is by statute. Everything is spelled out with that. I believe I have a note from our Executive Secretary, Catherine Fisher, which is dated December 5th, and regarding citizen comments regarding town administrator versus town manager form of government. Last week, I received a phone...
Point of order,
Yes?
we do not put into the record people who do not leave their name. So I have a problem with the first paragraph, I don't have a problem with the other one.
Is the person in the third paragraph the same as the second paragraph,
Yes.
Catherine? Or are they 3 different people?
No, 2 different people.
2 different people, okay.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna state that this is the first that I've seen this. I haven't had the opportunity to read the 3 paragraphs. So your objection that was made, I have no idea what's the rest in the memo, because I haven't read this memo. This memo was put in front of me prior to tonight's meeting, okay? With that, now, this is not a public hearing, that's by statute. This was a public hearing. The board wanted to solicit public information from citizens, okay? And I have no idea what's in the rest of this memo. The only thing is that a point of order was raised about a person not leaving their name. And I'm gonna just leave it up to the board, since we requested public and citizen input, if the board wants to take this. I have no idea what's in it, I haven't read it.
If I could address it, I don't object to people leaving their name and leaving comment. What I object to is this and/or any other time, we do not read things into the record where people leave anonymous comments. Whether it be this, whether it be somebody who's admonishing a department or something, we just don't do that. And I just think it would set it's just not good for us to do that. And we haven't done it in the past, whether it be this issue or any other issue.
I understand, and the only point that I'm making, okay, is that we ask for people's input. We have a half a dozen people here tonight that I assume that are probably here for this. I know one person who stated that they were here for this, okay? There are other people that have contacted me. I mean, people have taken their time. Somebody did make the time, I assume. The first sentence said that Catherine received a phone call. So, I mean, if the board wants me to not read further on that first paragraph, I won't. But I just wanted to give everybody the opportunity, because a person called and didn't leave their name. This is not a formal thing that we're doing, a public hearing by statute that required to do anything. It was for us to gather information and just input. So, I mean, I'll take a consensus of the board if they want me to go forward with I don't know if does everybody have a copy of this?
I mean, it's just, I would agree.
Okay, that's
We wouldn't allow anyone to come up to the microphone and just state their comments
Okay.
without giving us their
Okay,
names,
just-
so.
I just wanted an explanation that if this person was seeing this and wanted to know why their phone call was not read in, and that everybody that's here understands why that person was not, okay? And
The second and third paragraph.
Second is fine.
Okay. A citizen came in today and wished me to provide her comments to the Board of Selectmen regarding the town's public hearing tonight and the issues regarding a town administrator versus town manager form of government. Ms. Barbara Russo commented that she is not in favor of the change from our current town administrator form of government. She said she doesn't feel that we are big enough for that change, so she doesn't favor a change at this time. And the second item that I have is dated today, regarding public hearing, proposed change in form of government. I am unable to get to the meeting in time for the public hearing this evening. Thank you for your consideration of my written comment. I am opposed to the proposal to change the form of government in our community from the Board of Selectmen, BOS, to a town manager/council form of government. While some years ago I was in favor of such a change, I have not been for some time. The change, as proposed, dilutes the authority of the Board of Selectmen and gives one individual broad power at what could be a significantly higher expense for the taxpayer. To my knowledge, there has always been at least as many candidates as there have been openings for the Board of Selectmen. So there is no history of an issue with having a full board, even with the change some time ago from 3 members to 5. Additionally, I recall a large part of the argument for the change from 3 to 5 members for the Board of Selectmen was that the 3-person Board of Selectmen was too few for the power over all issues, and those 5 persons would be better. Going to a town manager would seem to be a clear step in the other direction. As a policy board, a town council has very little authority to oversee operations and even to set budgets, while with a Board of Selectmen, authority can be, and usually is in this town, delegated to the town manager and department heads. I believe town administrator is what this person meant, and department heads. The Board of Selectmen has the ability to set as a board in management, has the ability to act as a board in management when they deem it in the community's best interest. If the community deems a Board of Selectmen to not act in their best interest, whether directly or by their delegation of tasks, the community can vote out the members of the Board of Selectmen as their term expires. There is no such opportunity for the town manager. town managers are, to my knowledge, on the contract for a set term with renewable option periods. The citizen has no ability to have a say in his relationship or contract. Such a change in duties would take a large part of our town's day-to-day operations out of the specter of public examination. Department reports could become a thing of the past. Hiring and firing would occur outside of the meeting. The meetings themselves would become very different, and the public right to know the daily operations of the town would be adversely impacted. I am not aware of any problems that have arisen with town operations that warrant such a change. I am aware of problems that have arisen in other communities caused by problems with town managers. This has been exemplified by things such as problems and additional costs to the community when managers have undertaken tasks not approved or desired by their council. In other cases, turnover of town managers has been an issue affecting operations. While I understand some of our Board of Selectmen individual members might feel that the task of the Board of Selectmen is too large, I believe it is more a function of an individual's accurate assessment of the time commitment needed to be a member of the Board of Selectmen. Such a conflict should not take away the citizens' right to vote on community discussion makers. Please do not consider a change to our form of government. If such a motion is made and seconded, I request that you vote against it. Barbara Griffin. Thank you. Is that the extent that we had?
That's all, right?
Okay. I did not formally open the public hearing, but I will do that, and I apologize for not doing it that way. Again, this is not a public hearing that's required by statute, so that we have to do things statutorily according to the law. It's basically to gather information. So with that, I've read written comment and phone call, I believe, that we received, and with that, I see there's several people here, and one hand was just raised, you're jumping ahead of me, but I will acknowledge Mr. Plett, and I assume that you would like to be heard.
Please.
Please step forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Fred Plett. I served as the corresponding secretary for Charter Commission not too many years back, where this very issue was thoroughly discussed among the townspeople, and the townspeople voted not to vote for the charter, which would have created the town manager position. I want to say that my comments are not directed to any specific individual, that Sue DeRusso is a fine town administrator, and I get along with her fine, and she would make a fine town manager. My concern is that if you institutionalize a town manager position, we may not be so lucky in the future. And we haven't been in the past. We had a series of town administrators that were less than desirable, and it was not that long ago. Once you have a town manager form of government, you are bound by that contract and you're bound by statute. And whereas now with a town administrator, you can take a fine town administrator and essentially make that person into a de facto town manager, but take it away when things aren't so good. And so I thought Barbara Griffin's letter was well-written, and I support her, the comments in her letter. But I didn't think you could form a town manager without having a charter, which would imply a charter commission. So I didn't know you could do it just by vote of the selectmen.
Well, it's not by vote of the selectmen. It came up for discussion here, and what it is that the discussion came up as to whether or not the Board of Selectmen would support an article to be placed on the warrant to adopt the statute for a town manager form of government.
Okay.
And during that discussion that we had, it was, the discussion was that we wanted to get some citizen input to see how the community felt about it, and that's why we're having the two forums that we've had.
I understand.
It's not by our vote. It's whether or not we want to place an article to adopt that statute, and just so that everybody's aware that citizens have the ability by 25 signatures to place that very statute to adopt the town manager on the warrant. So even if the Board of Selectmen were not to go forward with that article, it's available to citizens to place that on as long as they meet the deadline and they have the required signatures to place that article, that statute on the warrant for adoption, for the voters to vote on.
Thank you. I think I've stated everything I can constructively state.
Okay, and I hope I answered all your questions.
You did.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there somebody else who would like to make a comment? Yes, sir. And Lionel, we're gonna need your name for the record.
You didn't, gee whiz, I
Didn't sign the thing, or
Fred,
illegal?
would you like me to put your X down?
Please.
I'll put an X down. Just fly with me, please. My name is Lionel Coulon. I have to agree with Mrs. Griffin and Fred exactly on the proposed changes that someone wants to make. I have just two questions. Number one, why would we want to change? If we want to change something, it's because something is wrong. I would like to know what was wrong with the form of government we have now, and exactly, specifically, can you give us an example? If someone can give us an example of why we should change. Is there an issue? Do we have an issue with the government, with the form of government we have now? If we do, it should be stated. If not, I think we should leave it the way it is. And I think Mrs. Griffin and Fred's have done a very nice job of explaining it. So that's the only thing, the only comment I have is just a question, basically. Why is it wrong?
Okay, if you're asking me specifically,
Well,
I'm
you or the board, or anybody else on the board, if,
okay, so that's basically what I'm getting from you is that at some point that you would like, if we would decide to go forward with this, you would like to know, in our opinion, what's broken or
Exactly
what
it.
it is that's effectuating the change and why the change.
right,
Exactly.
exactly it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Fred, I'll loan you my pen if you want it, the one they provided, not theirs.
Okay, we'll Josh it.
Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment? Yes. Yeah, yes. We're gonna need your name for the record,
Yes,
just for
okay.
the record.
Karen Heiss,
Yes.
and I jumped in after our last speaker. Sorry, I'm terrible with names and I can't read your name. But I have to confess that there's a lot about the details of our form of government, our current form of government, that I do not know and I do not understand. So I've seen, I think now 3 or 4 articles talking about what might change, and those refer to some level of authority and responsibility changing from the selectman to a town manager. And that including hiring and firing, including all departments. And I don't like the sound of that. To me, that sounds like there is quite a bit of authority going away from department heads as well as the selectmen. I also haven't seen, I'm not too sure how complete these articles are that I have read. So in terms of, I agree that I would also like to understand why we might want to change. I'd like to understand more also about what that change would be, more precisely in more detail. Including things like I haven't seen the library mentioned as a department, whether that would be report to the town manager or not. Can you answer that one now?
Well, I can answer that the library comes under the direction of the library trustees, the board of trustees.
Okay.
Which are elected. There are different statutes that regulate them. The relationship between the town of Goffstown and the Board of Library Trustees, as far as the operation is that they come to the town as far as a budget is concerned. So they have a request for a budget, which goes through the town, goes through the budget committee, goes through the selectmen. Basically, they use the finance department to do their finances, to do their payroll and so forth. I mean, statutorily, they could decide that they're gonna do all of that by themselves, but they haven't. They've worked with the town. The town has worked relatively well with different, over the years with it, and it does save the taxpayers some money as far as we already have a finance department. We do payroll, and we go through that system, so there is a savings there.
Are there other departments that have some level of autonomy like that?
Well, Public Works, the Fire Department, and the Police Department, and the Parks and Rec Department come directly underneath the supervision of the Board of Selectmen. Statutorily, the police chief and the fire chief have certain authority that's given to them statutorily that the selectmen have no control over, because that's by state law. That's given certain aspects there. And Public Works Director has a few, but they're limited as to what he's given authority by the state. But generally, the departments themselves, policies within the department, the hiring of all the personnel in those 4 departments is directly under the Board of Selectmen.
I did not realize that.
As well as this department here.
Right, administration,
Administration department.
Yeah, I mean, the town clerk is a duly elected position. We don't control the town clerk. That's all by statute.
Yeah.
We appoint the tax collector. We appoint an assessor in place of for the daily functions of assessing department. There is a code enforcement officer that comes under administration. There is a planning department. There is a planner, and all of those. There is some function of the planning board, which is statute, but actually the overseeing of all of that is done through administration, overseen by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
I think, did you want to
But
add
just
something?
correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't some of the commissions then come under the town manager, Parks and Rec Commission, Solid Waste Commission? Those would no longer be autonomous, I believe, under a town manager system.
I'm not 100% positive. I mean,
I'd have to look, I recall something in the RSA that
there is
talks
something.
about that.
Right now, the Parks and Rec Commission has the authority given to it by the Board of Selectmen.
Right, so if it's something that the statute takes away from the Board of Selectmen, then that
Okay.
committee that was created by the Board of Selectmen would no longer exist, or would come under the town manager.
So if we were to go forward, I would really like to see information along those lines shared with a public newspaper, however, in a fairly informative, detailed way. And all of that said, I see no reason for a change. And I think Barbara Griffin's statement, comments were very well stated.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else who'd like to make? Yes, John, we'll need your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Caprio, and I live on Tibbetts Hill Road. Before I begin, I'm a little bit confused now, based upon a letter that was written into the record, as to whether the discussion is changing from a town administrator to a town manager, or if we're trying to change to a town council.
No, the question that the discussion that the board has had as to whether or not to support placing an article on the warrant, on the ballot, to adopt the town manager form of government.
Okay, but,
No council,
correct. So the mention in the letter from Ms. Griffin is that there is a town council under consideration or a change or whatever, however that was worded, is
No, I
not,
don't,
She worded that way.
well.
is
that's-
not,
Okay, well,
that's not under consideration whatsoever.
no, not
Okay.
no.
Okay,
No, to do that, we would have to form a charter commission.
that's right, okay. I just wanted to ask that question to clear things up, okay. The current structure of the town is part-time leadership. Legally, no individual on this board can direct the department head, so the Board of Selectmen can only make decisions based on if a quorum is present. It's my belief that given the size of this town, that we need a leader to oversee the town operations on a daily basis, and let me give you some data. Goffstown is the 14th largest municipality by population, using 2010 census figures. And of the 13 municipalities which are larger in population, 6 of these are towns. And of the 6, all but one have town managers who oversee the daily operations of the town, including overseeing all departments, or the departments that they can legally oversee. Now let's look at money within the state. Using 2010 appropriations, which I got from the DRA site, which is the latest that's actually posted for all of the town, all the municipalities. Goffstown is the 22nd largest municipality in terms of appropriations. Of those with larger appropriations, 11 of these are towns. And of the 11, all but one have town managers. So I think if we ask the question about size or think about size, I think that the argument can be made very well that we are of a size where a town manager form of government is appropriate and should be considered seriously. In fact, here in Goffstown, we already have experience with a town manager, if I may put quotation marks around that form of government, in our school district. We have a school superintendent who oversees the schools on a daily basis, who reports to the school board. And the superintendent's responsible for the day-to-day operations of the school district. So we have experience in this line in a school district, and as a matter of fact, this is the case throughout New Hampshire in terms of schools. Now, it's been claimed, and here again tonight, from my friend Mr. Plett, that Goffstown had bad experiences with town managers. I think this is a red herring. This was years ago, and I think it's a poor excuse for making progress. The Board of Selectmen supervises a town manager and can fire a town manager. And the system works as it did then. Now, another argument is that the board can delegate responsibilities to the town administrator. My guess is, based upon my personal experience and as an observer of town government and town politics, that any delegation is going to be on the margins. And the changes that really need to be made will not be significant. So I really have to ask the board to think seriously, what is the issue around a town manager? What is the fear of this form of government? I'm really frustrated as to what this is all about. If it's control and power, that should not be an explanation. Efficiency and effectiveness of town government's more important. How many hours do you spend in your meetings on questions and discussions which are really insignificant? And I think you can look at the agenda tonight and probably answer that question very readily. And at the expense of time and energy of really significant things, strategic and high-level operational issues. How many important decisions have you postponed? How many residents' questions or issues have been delayed, which could have been resolved more quickly by somebody in daily leadership like a town manager? Goffstown is not the same as it was 10 years ago, and yet we persist on doing business, for the most part, like we did in the 70s and the 80s. Look around and see how many other towns are being managed successfully by town managers. In my opinion, this town does not punch with its weight because of how we govern ourselves. Some aspects of life in Goffstown are worth fighting for. An outmoded government operation is not one of them. And I urge you to vote in support of the town manager's supervisory form. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to make a comment? Yes,
Is the board gonna get an opportunity to comment?
excuse me?
Will board members be given the opportunity to comment? Because if not, then I will step aside and go to the chair.
Well,
And here's the reason, if I may, can you give me a little latitude on my request? There have been a couple of articles in the newspaper, actually three, two in the Goffstown News, one in the Union Leader, and there was really, I'm the one who brought this up. Obviously, Selectman Fournier and myself voted to consider it, yet I received no phone call from the newspaper with respect to explaining some of the rationale as to why I thought that this may be something that we should entertain. To the contrary, there were in these articles reasons why it should not be entertained. And most of the discussion has been about why we shouldn't proceed. And I would like the opportunity to get it on the record again why I think we should consider it. And I'm not saying we should proceed, I'm just saying I think we should consider it. And let the voters decide how they want to go. So that would be I did not have the opportunity through the newspaper to advocate a position on it, and to the contrary, in my opinion, it kind of disturbed me a little bit, Mr. Chair, in the sense that there was an editorial in the paper saying, well, if Selectman Gross had, we're all ears as to what his rationale is. Well, if the newspaper would have contacted me, I would have been more than happy to explain why are some of the reasons why, but unfortunately I didn't get it, and I think it's been a one-sided argument up until tonight.
well, let me just say this, and unless the board doesn't, I don't have a problem with that, and I think that we have some citizens here tonight that perhaps would like to hear that. I mean, and I can understand that. So if it's, I'm just gonna ask if there's somebody that's here that needs to leave because they have a babysitter, they have an appointment, or they have to go someplace, and if they wanted to speak, that they would speak. If not, I'll let you.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I appreciate that. For one, I just want to set the record straight that it is a privilege and an honor to serve on this Board of Selectmen and prior boards of Selectmen. I can honestly say that there's a lot of talent around this table. We have a lot of 3-2 votes, but we all respect each other's opinion, and I can tell you that we have, in my opinion, a really great team in terms of our expertise. And if you know what we all do professionally, a lot of us are either managers or have had a wide array of management experience, which really helps us do an excellent job. I take it as a compliment when people say, we don't think it's broken. I personally take that as a compliment. I think our board should take that as a compliment. But that's not the reason why I brought this up. I brought it up for the reasons of how can we do it better. And Mr. Clone, you had said, what is wrong with the form of government now? In my opinion, as former Selectman Caprio stated, we could be more effective. We could be much more efficient in how we govern. I believe that Goffstown's form of government, although acceptable, is not optimum at this particular point. As has been stated, we're a town of 18,000 people, and clearly other communities have adopted a more streamlined operation. When we talk about when we talk about accountability, this board sets goals. Every year we set goals. But you may find it somewhat strange that in the 5 years that I've been on this Board of Selectmen, I have not yet had any input or seen a performance review for any department head. I believe that a town administrator, a town manager form of government, those goals and those performance reviews would start from the Board of Selectmen. They would go to the town manager, and I can darn well tell you that I would expect that there would be performance evaluations done. So it's a shock to me, and it should be a shock to you, that in 5 years, I've yet to see one. I have tried to put forth performance reviews, but that has not happened. And to me, any organization, you have to have your goals, and you have to hold those goals accountable. And those are usually done through performance appraisals. I've been in management for 20 years, and I'm very shocked that we haven't seen that. When we talk about efficiency and effectiveness, and again, former Selectman Caprio, I guess, stole a lot of what I was going to say, but if you look at our agendas, you'll see that we spend a lot of time on, I think, on minor and more trivial things that could easily be dealt with by a town manager. But when I look at collectively what we have spent time on in terms of economic development, really reaching out to folks in the business community, bringing business in, working to make the community more affordable, those sometimes, though I shouldn't say sometimes, they oftentimes take a back seat to dealing with dog licenses or other, or dead animals on a street or someone's driveway, all right? And I'm not saying that those things are trivial or mundane. I'm just saying that in terms of the pecking order, we don't spend a whole lot of time with that. In my opinion, the economics of things, healthcare, you've heard a lot about that. We need to really seriously and aggressively look at healthcare. We have spent 10 times more time on this board dealing with issues such as dog licenses than we have on managing healthcare. I want to also, just set the record straight with regard to one of the letters here, when it was stated that I believe that the concern is more of a function of an individual's accurate assessment of the time commitment needed to be a member of the Board of Selectmen. That's bunk, all right? I know exactly what the time commitment is for a Board of Selectmen. Trust me, if you break down what we make per year to the hours that many of us put in, you can probably, it's about $2 to $3 an hour for many of us. So I'm very well aware of that, but what I want to do is I want to spend the time wisely on much bigger issues, and unfortunately, we just don't do that. We spend a lot of our times in meetings with other committees and commissions, and although sometimes that is important, we are not focusing in on the bigger issues. Economic development being one of them. Please don't be scared of a town manager. A town manager is simply someone who would oversee all the town operations, and the Board of Selectmen still maintains a great deal of power through its policymaking and providing that direction input to a town manager. But what it does do is I think it gives a greater degree of accountability to our form of government. A couple of things which, again, I didn't buy all these arguments. The right to know will be adversely impacted. I don't agree with that either. A town manager would be held to the same standards under the right to know law as this board is right now. We do have a very transparent operation, and I can tell you that personnel issues, they're conducted under the right to know law, and the same privileges would be held by a town manager. You don't talk about personnel issues. So the right to know law, I don't particularly buy that. Fear of town managers in some communities, I can tell you that there are communities that have Board of Selectmen. You can pick up the paper, they've got plenty of issues. You've got communities with town councils who have issues. You're going to have issues no matter what form of government you have. You really are. But when you look at the fact that right now we have 4 or 5 department heads who have 4 or 5 bosses, and if you are a fire chief or a police chief or a town administrator and you're looking for direction and you have a 3-2 vote one week and then it flip-flops and goes 3-2 the other way the next week, how are you going to proceed? You're a little bit confused as to how you should go. Interestingly, what was not talked about was that we did discuss this with our department heads, and the consensus that I got, and I can't speak for the board, but I was under the impression that the consensus was that our department heads favored a town manager form of government for that consistency and that level of direction. As has been stated, we are a part-time board. We are extremely fortunate that the members of this Board of Selectmen have an extensive management background. That's not to say that in 5 years you may get 4 or 5 members who have no management experience, who are just doing things politically. Whereas if you had a town manager, that person, they're professionally trained, they are making those decisions, so that's a positive. So, again, I take that as a compliment, and I think our board should too. And last but not least, I'm not saying that we are broken. This board, I think, functions at a fairly high level. We have an outstanding town administrator. We have outstanding department heads. We are very fortunate in this community. I'm looking at the future of Goffstown. And if anything, as a member of the board, and you've heard it from me and you've heard it from a former member of the Board of Selectmen, yeah, I am willing to give up some power. I'm not willing to give up power because it makes my job easier as a selectman. No, I want to give up power to focus on things that I think are more important. And although it's been stated before that we have the opportunity now to focus on those things, or we've had them all along, I just have never seen it. And maybe that's something that we have to work on better as our board. So, no slight on our current members of our board. I think we do a good job, and it's been a pleasure working not just with this board, but with Selectman Blondeau and Selectman Caprio, great people who did an outstanding job. It's not about the time commitment, it's more about using our time effectively and also being more streamlined in our operations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Would anybody else like to make a comment at this time?
Was it Mr. Fournier who also agreed with you?
Yes.
Could you summarize your feelings if they differ in any way?
Well, whenever Selectman Gross talks, he always covers everything, but I will add, because I was looking at all my notes and what I had, and he hit on most of those points. But I would like to share a few things here. When we talk about other towns, and Mr. Caprio spoke very well regarding the amount of numbers, but I just wanted to put some names to that regarding those towns that have town managers. Portsmouth, Londonderry, Laconia, Keene, Hampton, Bedford, Salem, Rochester, Merrimack, Dover, Concord. So when people say, geez, there's some difficulties, I don't seem to be reading all these towns' names in the paper with all these difficulties. Second thing, I know they were spoken about the broke piece, and I just want to touch on that. I don't look at it as broke, I look at it as improving upon. And I've not made it any secret that when my term runs out this year, I will not be seeking re-election. And so with that in time, I'm looking back, I'm reflecting on the time that I spent here. I spent several years on the Budget Committee, 3 years here with the board. Got to deal with some great people. I think everyone does works hard and is very knowledgeable. But I look back and I say, you look back on what's gone by, and I say, could my time have been better spent? And that's the big thing I look at. Could my time have been better spent on larger issues? And Selectman Gross spoke to it when we talk about private roads or dog licenses, etc. You have to look back and say, what was important? And one of the things as a manager that you always look at your allocation of time, your resources. And part of that is that you have to look at and say, did I spend 50% on my time on smaller issues, or did I spend 75% of my time on those that really matter, that are strategic and long range? I would tell you, looking back, that I don't think those percentages were in the places that I would like. I would have liked to see much more time spent on strategic planning further down. I would have liked to see more time spent talking, regarding economic development, which everyone speaks about every time when they come. And it's like clockwork. You will see it when people run for election this next time. There'll be someone up there and they'll all talk about taxes, and they'll say, geez, we need to bring more business to town to offset. I would tell you that we spoke very little about this. I wish it would have been more. So in looking back, that's what, when I think of a town, when I think of a town manager, I look at that portion where, that it frees up the time to go where things are more important. I think it helps department heads to move smoother, because there have been times they've come here, they've had a question, and then we have to wait another week. And then that comes, and all of a sudden, they might not have all the full board here, and okay, we'll table that one, and we'll wait another week. Some of these things should have been moving. That's not efficient, it's not timely, and it's not good for our citizens. I mean, I think the town expects us to perform. And part of that performance is to sit back and evaluate ourselves, and I'm just speaking for myself, and I'm saying that, have we done a good job? Yes. Could we have changed things to free up time to get to some better things? Yeah, I would say we could have.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to be heard?
Everything was said,
Everything what?
what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Fred said everything I wanted to say.
Oh, Fred said everything, okay, well, that's important to know that you agree with Fred.
I
Yes.
second the motion.
And we need your name for the record.
I don't have a name. I don't know what I called.
There you go.
I was on vacation, so.
Then go read it in then.
No names, please.
Okay, Scott?
I just want to, thank you for coming out tonight. It's it's part of the government process, and we all, I know our board has a tremendous respect for each other, and I just respect the fact that and I know most of you, and it's okay to agree and to disagree on certain issues, but I appreciate the manner in which everyone spoke, and I'm not sure where this is gonna land, but it's good dialogue to have. I think any organization should always be talking about how can you improve, and sometimes you make that leap and you change, and sometimes you don't, but it's very healthy to talk about it.
If I could, I guess we should hear some of the other side. And I wouldn't say I'm on the other side, because when we entered this discussion, I said that I had an open mind. I really didn't know one way or the other, and I wanted to hear the issues, both pro and con. And I have to admit, prior or other than Selectman Gross bringing the issue up, I had not been approached by any resident in town saying, we need a new form of government. This is something that I really think we need to do. So that was my first hesitation, because I didn't see that overriding call to change. Some of the things that I've heard, I understand, as Selectman Gross said, that there are 5 bosses. There really aren't 5 bosses. There's one board. And I know we vote in different ways. I think for the most part, the boards develop a personality, and the department heads can understand and really go forward working within that personality, and they kind of know where the board is going, and they structure their operations accordingly. I think Goffstown historically has been on the cutting edge of a lot of things that have occurred. We look at our road plan, we look at a lot of the things, our solid waste program, our police department. Goffstown has been held up as an example in a lot of different areas as being the model. And I don't think that's by accident. So I think in those respects, things are working. So that was my hesitancy in saying, I really want to hear a good argument for changing. And not that I want to go, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But I would be hesitant to change a successful model for an unknown, just for the sake of saying, let's change, which is why I suggested that we go forward and give our town administrator a lot of the town manager functions for a test period, whether it's a year or 2, so that the board can then devote itself to the things that you're saying we need to devote our time to. So then at the end of that trial period, we can go to the residents and say, you know what? We've tried this, and it works. And these are the reasons. We've got the experience, we've got the proof, or, it didn't really give us the free time we thought we needed. So it's probably not a good idea to go to a town manager type of form. I'm just fearful of upsetting a successful model for something that we all think is going to be great, because every other town our size or smaller or larger is doing it. Because we've avoided those comparisons when we looked at things like fire department operations. We try to do, or other operations. Goffstown is Goffstown, and we have success in areas, and we try to keep going forward with that. So it's not that I am against it. As the purest form of democracy that we have, the Board of Selectmen and the town structure that we have, I am responsible and accountable to every resident that sits here in front of me. I think we lose a little of that when we put a layer in between. I'm not saying that I would never support that. I just haven't heard a compelling argument to do that. So as I mentioned earlier, I would be willing to do a trial to see where that would lead. Economic development-wise, a lot of economic development is dependent on things outside of our control. Planning board issues, zoning board issues, and those are elected bodies that we have no jurisdiction over. So yes, we can sit every month as a development, or every other week as an economic development committee, but there's only so much we can do that's within our power. So again, I'm willing to try something to see if it would work, but I'm not convinced that we need to go forward and make a change. I just haven't heard a compelling outcry from the residents for that.
Hey, do you want to make a statement or not? You don't have to.
No.
I just want to add onto your comment about economic development. Several boards ago, boards of selectmen, we created our economic development, our council for economic development. Part of it is, it's made up of citizens. Over the years, many citizens have served on that committee. Many citizens who served several terms did not sign up, and they had a frustration because it's tough to bring business into Goffstown. And I've been on this board for 20 years. I've served on, before back the old industrial council that we had, before the council that we had. And whenever you ask about business, everybody wants business into the town to help the taxes, but as long as it's on the other side of town. And, that's the honest truth. Everybody's in favor of it, as long as it's not by me, it's on the other side of the river or over there. It's always been frustrating. One of the things that Board of Selectmen in the past had looked at was to see what we could do for economic incentives. Could we do things to provide tax deferments to businesses, to bring businesses? One of the things we looked at is the property that's over that St. A's now owns, which is over by the vacant property on the corner of 114 and St. A's Drive, going up, that was the catering. It used to be Martin's, the old Martin's Catering. That parcel, we had looked at to see about trying to get in like a Marriott conference center in that area. One of the things that we looked at to see what could we do for tax incentives. Could we give them no taxes to lure them in, and progress? And then we found out that statutorily we could not do that. We don't have the authority. We can't do that. So in the past, we've looked at things, and quite frankly, Goffstown's topography and geography is what makes it kind of tough. We have two industrial areas that we have. We've had them for many, many years, and you know where they are. It's tough to develop. We have to compete with Manchester. We looked at some of those properties to try to get somebody to come in. And why is somebody going to come in and pay $70,000 to $80,000 for a lot that they need to bring in water and sewer, when they can go to Manchester and for $40,000 they have a lot that's got an approval, that's got water and sewer? They just go get their building permit and they build. So that's what we have to compete with. We have to compete with Bedford, that is blessed with all the major roads that go through it, a flat land. The Hooksett has a similar type of thing. That's what we have. We have a river right down through the middle of us, and our land goes like this. And unfortunately, the best land we have for commercial development is owned by the county. And what we run into, when we go to try to develop that and try to talk to the county, we have a lot of people in town who want it not zoned for industrial or commercial. They want it zoned for, what's the term I'm looking for?
Scenic.
Conservancy, for other types of things that don't bring tax dollars in. So that's tough. That's what the Board of Selectmen has to deal with that. So we've gone through that over the years. Nothing is gonna change the topography of Goffstown unless some major thing happens with, and the river is relocated, okay? You know, unless Moses comes here, I don't see it changing. So that's what we've had.
That's a good quote.
That's what we've had to deal with, you know, unfortunately. So, you know, after a while, there are certain things that you can't effectuate the change. So those are things that you kind of put on the back burner, and I can understand why some members might be frustrated because they don't see that economic, that drive for the economic development on it. But I think I've said my piece.
Yeah, I appreciate what Selectman Camposano said. I think that's a very healthy starting point. And as somebody who brought this issue up, I brought it up not because I think it's broken right now, but I think it's incumbent upon all of us to think about what's best with our community 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And if you ask anybody who's either the CEO of a company or somebody on the board of directors, you're always wondering, what is our company going to be like in 5 or 10 years? And you want to be out ahead of that. So this is healthy discussion so that we are out ahead of it and we're thinking about it. And I'm pleased at what you said, Nick, in the sense that I think that is a good step, because we can determine whether or not it's something that our community might be better served if we go to that form of government by having a year or two worth of experience with that. So I would not be pressing for putting this on the ballot from what I've heard, but by the same token, I think it's a challenge to our board to delegate some of these responsibilities to see if it is a good thing to do. To me, I think that would be a good first step, so that we always will continue to stay ahead of it.
All right. Is there anybody else that wants to say? Does anybody want to make a comment or state anything? Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for all of your answers, and thank you for that discussion. I think hearing that was helpful for us
Good.
As well.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Appreciate that. We have a second public hearing. So I don't know how many here are for that. If
Fred
you
is
came,
probably here for that, right?
if you came for the first one, you're welcome to stay.
You have to close the first one?
We'll have to close the current one the current public hearing regarding manager, town administrative form of government. And we're going to have a public hearing to accept a 15-month-old Belgian Merino canine replacement for the police departments. Approximate value is $7,000, and we're required to have a public hearing for any gift over $5,000. So you're welcome to stay.
He has 5 minutes.
Okay. Chief?
We'll do it easy. Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
One of our 2 current canines is 9 years old. He'll be 10 in March. It's getting older, more difficult to get in and out of the cruiser. Eyesight isn't what it should be. When we have an opportunity to obtain a 15-month-old Belgian Malinois, that's being donated to the town for free.
I gotta ask the question, what is a Belgian? What does it
It's a
look like?
dog.
I know it's a dog. What kind of dog? I mean, what's it look like?
Similar to a shepherd, but
Oh, okay, that's all. I
but
mean,
smaller.
I'm gonna say yes anyway, because I like, but I just want to know what it looks like.
Will you be bringing him in, Chief, to show us?
Yeah.
At one point, I could bring him
Yeah,
in.
yeah, we'll have a demonstration.
You have a
Well-
you have the
Yeah, you'll do like they do at the academy over there. You get those little cans and you have us hide something that in one of those, we'll put them there and have the dog come and pick them out.
Well, he's not fully trained yet, but
don't know where he's gonna bite.
Yeah, Nick?
Once the new dog is ready for operation, will there be a transition?
Yes, there will be.
Retiring, and what will
we'll be
what will the
retiring.
second dog be doing in his retirement?
The one that we're retiring,
Well, that's not really the second dog, that's the third dog. This is the fourth dog.
Well,
Now
we
I'm
have
totally
two
confused.
Yeah.
Yeah,
current.
but
Two active-
starting
two
from
active
Rex,
dogs.
this is the fourth
right,
dog.
Rex has been retired.
Right.
Kel that we're looking to retire will just simply be retired, and there's tradition has it, we return it to the owner, or to the handler.
To the
at this
handler.
point. Right.
That was,
If I may follow up, will
Yeah, go right ahead.
will this dog be going to the same handler, or will it be a new handler?
We've opened up the position. The handler can apply for that position, the current handler, or we can have another handler, and it's all up, again, it's an open process.
I'll make a motion to accept the
Second.
donation, 15-month-old Belgian.
Oh, they
Did
closed
you
the
open
hearing
the,
first.
did you
Oh,
open the
no, we
public
did
hearing?
not.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no,
Thank
that's
you.
okay, that's okay. We'll table the motion.
Table the
Okay, that's
motion,
okay.
yes. I will hold my
Okay.
motion.
Do we have any public comment regarding this donation? Going once?
Absolutely, take a new dog.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going twice? 3 times? I'm closing the public hearing. And we have a motion by Selectman
If I
Campusano?
can first, Chief, could you just, the dog's capability, what will the dog be trained?
They'll be trained in patrol techniques, tracking, and drug detection.
I'll second it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the canine replacement donation.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
And 7:30. You've got about 30 seconds.
I'll run. Okay, I'll walk fast.
Okay. Police Chief Patrick Sullivan regarding oath of officers and reception for Officer Scott E. Avedisian and Officer Jacob W. Yaris.
Avedisian?
Yes, can you pull out the appointment papers there and see if everybody signed,
Yeah, I
please?
had them over here. Did you sign them?
They're in their own folders.
No, it's a really nice, I think it's a great tradition. You see, we still love each other. Phil too, right?
We'll go on to them, doesn't Phil read the oath?
Oh, I don't agree with my wife half the time.
No, we only read these.
Always do, yes.
You do?
Yes, dear.
Yeah. Oh,
Available, yes.
well, when it comes down to the, it's always, yeah.
Yes, dear.
Yeah. You make your point and then you gotta.
Yep, that's it.
Then we get the officers to sign them. It's not that big.
I know. We didn't.
Smaller than usual.
Not big enough.
For us.
Do you know what a Belgian Malamute looks like?
Malinois.
Yeah, you know what it looks like?
What has he got?
Chihuahua.
What do you got? Oh, God. Too funny. Just get him a little hat. Little booties.
He's the one that didn't know what it looked like.
Thank you for coming. Bonjour, guys. Ça va bien? Oh, yes, yes, I do, right here. I'll rent it here.
Ready? Okay. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. On behalf of the department, it's really great feeling for all of us to see everyone show up for these swearing-ins. The new officers appreciate it, and I believe our whole family does. We'll start with Officer Scott Avesian. Come up, Scott. Scott is a resident of Goffstown. He holds a pilot's license, diver certification, a U.S. Air Force vet. It's not the Marine Corps, but is the Air Force. His wife, Catherine. He has a bachelor's from the Liberty College, and is previous to tonight, he was a certified part-time officer, and he just graduated this past Friday from the New Hampshire Police Academy. Scott Avesian. You want to do both at the same time? Or?
Whatever you want.
We'll do one at a time.
Yeah, do one.
Okay. Do you want to introduce your family?
I'd love to. Thank you all for coming, appreciate it. My wife Katie, my mom Kathleen, and then my aunt and uncle here and some friends in the back. So thank them for coming, and thank you all for showing up, and thank you, Chief, for the opportunity.
Okay. We only have one copy here.
That's okay. What I'm going to do is administer the oath of office to you.
Yes, sir.
And it's, this is to Scott Avesian. Whereas there is a vacancy in the office of police officer in the town of Goffstown Police Department, and whereas we, the subscribers, have confidence in your ability and integrity to perform the duties of said office, we do hereby appoint you, the said Scott Avesian, a police officer of the said town, and upon your taking the oath of office and having this appointment and the certificate of said oath of office recorded by the town clerk, you shall have the powers, perform the duties, and be subject to the liabilities of such office until another person shall be chosen and qualified in your stead. And right now, we're going to raise our right hand, and you repeat after me, and I, and your name,
I, Scott Avedian,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent on me
as police officer
as police officer
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeably to the United States Constitution,
agreeably to the United States Constitution,
rules and regulations of the Constitution,
rules and regulations of the Constitution,
and laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and ordinances of the town of Goffstown.
and ordinance of the town of Goffstown.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Right here. We'll just need your signature on both of those.
You sign your name. And one of these will come back to you, but you have to. Thank you, congratulations.
Katie?
Now I have the badge pinning by Katie, his wife.
Don't stab me.
Blood is best.
It's gonna hurt.
Nice job.
The next officer to be sworn tonight is Jacob Yaris. He currently resides in Raymond. He has a brother in law enforcement that you may have heard of before. He has a he has a Bachelor in Criminal Justice from Norwich University, and he's been a certified part-time officer in Hampton, working for another Chief Sullivan, if I recall. Again, Officer Yaris. Do you have some family you'd like to point out?
Family, yes. My girlfriend Dakota, my 2 parents, brother.
Derek.
Oh, my niece.
Sister-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's that one, and that one's over there.
All right, you have the benefit of seeing what happens, how it's done, so. Not yet.
Simon says, put your hands down.
Whereas there is a vacancy in the office of police officer in the town of Goffstown Police Department, and whereas we, the subscribers, have confidence in your ability and integrity to perform the duties of said office, we do hereby appoint you, the said Jacob Yaris, a police officer of the said town, and upon your taking the oath of office and having this appointment and the certificate of said oath of office recorded by the town clerk, you shall have the powers, perform the duties, and be subject to the liabilities of such office until another person shall be chosen and qualified in your stead. I
Jacob Yaris,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent on me
as police officer
as police officer
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeably to the United States Constitution,
agreeably to the United States Constitution,
rules and regulations of the Constitution,
rules and regulations on the Constitution,
and laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and ordinances of the town of Goffstown.
and ordinances of the town of Goffstown.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
One will return to you after we get the other documentation done.
Congratulations, Jacob. Is someone you'd like to have come up?
Yes, she. My girlfriend, Dakota.
You should have practiced at home. Ouch.
We'll also be having a short reception in the room next door.
Okay, we're back. We're back from the reception and swearing in of our 2 new police officers. And we're back to our selectmen discussion on new business, which was with Dave. So you have the floor, Dave.
Thank you. I want to pick up with what the feelings of the board would be, consensus of the board on an application for a grant that the town's Rail Trail Development Committee would bring to the board for approval and sending to the state. Once again, the issue is how to provide for the 20% match of cash to the 80% cash coming from the state program. and that the nonprofit activity in town would contribute 10% of that, 80-10-10 activity. If I don't, I kind of letting the cat out of the bag here, but if the board would not endorse any further use of tax money or impact fee at this time, possibly in the future there could be some impact fee money use. You're throwing the gauntlet down, and you want to test the waters to see whether the community will donate all 20%. I mean, if that's the consensus of the board, well, I will try to lead the community to make that happen. On the other hand, I think, I know I have, and I suspect a few of you have seen a tremendous increase in our residents using this new facility in town. And at some point, it's going to be a facility maintained by the Park Department at some minor expense to do maintenance and clearing. And at what point do you say it's going to be picked up with use of tax money? We had an article on the warrant last March dealing with the rail trail, and on that particular warrant, there was a greater number of residents were voting on that warrant, and they were aware of the rail trail being developed, and they wanted to keep it as a pedestrian and bicycle trail. That showed to me there was a good groundswell of residents in this town that would favor further development of the trail. I would hope this board would want to consent to a very low amount of use of town money to further be a match on the grant.
Scott? I wouldn't mind approaching Parks and Rec Commission to determine whether or not they wish to contribute using impact fees. Ultimately, I see rail trail as an extension of our parks, and they're going to be they will be maintaining them, and I would welcome the opportunity to discuss it with them to see if they would like to contribute those funds as the first option, and then from there proceed. I mean, I'm not adverse to using a minimal amount of tax dollars. I think this is no different than tax dollars going towards a betterment of Barnard or Roy Park or a pool or anything of that nature. It's a recreational facility that's used by the town, and also one could argue that if you look at the nominal amount in terms of a percentage in which taxpayer dollars are used to fund this, it's really minimal. I think the first avenue I think would be to discuss it with Parks and Rec.
I just want to add, take an opportunity to add some more rationale behind the project we're undertaking next year. Putting in the formal steel bollards protecting the public trailheads. And what that means is in these locations removing the New England boulders which are preventing vehicles from driving down the trail and replacing them with the formal bollards, the center one of which would be removable or collapsible. That recommendation came from our chief of police, that he perceives there's going to be a point in time when an emergency vehicle or law enforcement vehicle has to get access to a trail, and they can't. It also inhibits the maintenance of the trail, having an authorized vehicle on the trail for maintenance.
Steve?
No, that's where I was going with regarding the maintenance and emergency access regarding how those bollards work.
Is there a public need for emergency access? Yes, there is.
Yeah, and I and I'd like to go back to that process, all the work and effort and the amount of money they bring in. I think there's a point where sometimes there's that minimal piece that they're looking for that helps. I think sometimes it's warranted. And in other words, we understood the rail trail started originally that there wouldn't be taxpayer money, but when you look at the minimal amount and for what we're receiving back, and I do believe that the community has changed on its view looking at the rail to trail.
Nick?
Whereas the grant application hasn't been submitted, is there any ability to restructure or, let's say, reduce the work that is being contracted out, balanced by some in-house work where we can reduce the amount of grant dollars required, but also match in kind through in-house labor and get the same end result? In other words, I don't think, I don't know, but Ballard's installation, I mean, we're not talking a high degree of, expertise as far as having a contractor come in.
Do they allow for that?
Just, the plan had been that for these bollard installations, that the Public Works would, if the grant was approved, the Public Works would purchase all the bollards because it would take 2 to 3 months lead time, have them furnished to the contractor for installation as government furnished items. And then we would go under an RFP or solicit bids for the installation of the bollards and the trailhead improvements and this 500-foot stretch I've been speaking of. So that would be, if the town would purchase the bollards, that would be a match.
No, I wasn't referring to that. I was referring, in other words, if the grant pays for the purchase of the bollards and maybe the contract of the improvement of 500 feet, but the town did the installation and the removal of the boulders, in kind type.
Nick, that's essentially what we're doing this year under the 2011 grant from the Trails Bureau. Public Works vehicles and their labor are essentially the match.
Right.
And the match, the 20% match in that case is overwhelmingly easy to achieve, considering our, if it's a volunteer hour, we're only allowed to put the worth of a volunteer hour is $18 and some change for an hour. Whereas a town employee, we claim their, not only the wage, but their full benefit package.
And we can't do that for this new grant?
If a portion of this contract was installed through the town, yes, I can easily assign a portion of this development to Public Works. If you have been to Danish Park Road, Morgan Circle, Lynchfield Park here in the last week, you've seen the fine quality of what our Public Works is able to do.
No doubt.
And so they can easily achieve the 20% match if you would want this to be a split project. A little bit being built by Public Works and a little bit built through contract. And the grant could be written in that fashion.
Well, that might be the better way to do it. You can do that?
Yes, we can fashion the grant such that a portion of the work is done by Public Works. And yet it's helpful to hire local firms to do some of the contracting work too. So it's good that we try to do it 50-50 here.
Well, hopefully Public Works can try to fit it in between what they're doing over at the
Well, and this is
cemetery and
Right, it wouldn't even need to be 50-50. We only need to meet 10%.
That's right. So a small portion.
$800 worth of labor.
right.
And this, we would not be allowed to start the work until July of next year, because that's when the council and the governor releases these funds, is end of June next year. And technically, you have the whole year to accomplish the project from June to June.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
So, with the
Sounds-
consensus, thank you for the consensus of the board, and
I
I'll,
think that's where
I'll
the board
fashion the application to split the work up.
That okay?
Yeah,
That
great-
agreeable?
Great idea.
I would just, contingent on our Public Works Director,
Right.
because he's got to
Right.
approve it fitting into his schedule, so I don't
Yeah,
wanna
just the one that come
volunteer
in and
them.
see this on his desk and him, oh my, how am I gonna do this?
Right.
Okay,
Thank you, the board.
okay? Okay. That was more than a 10-minute discussion. That's
Well
okay.
worth it.
I know, any other new business? We beat new business to death. Okay, old business, design for revenue collection office at Town Hall. And also discussion on social media, so let's do, are we ready for the discussion? I see some drawings over there, so I think we're ready for the design for the revenue collection office at Town Hall?
Well, unless somebody else have drawings they'd like to float around?
I don't know.
I
They're
spent,
not in color?
they're in
They are
color.
Oh, okay.
So, there's 3 of them going that way.
Okay.
Scott, and I'll keep one. I still got one here.
One for the record.
Okay, Dave, you wanna go over this?
Yes. When this was last discussed, Selectman Gross indicated that he wanted to see more security of the workforce. And so I'll explain what I did to reflect on that desire. I also interviewed town clerk staff, and I realized that the working positions that were given to us weren't workable as to the functions that the clerks had to do, dealing with license plates and registrations. The tools for them to do their job weren't accessible, just as where they were standing or sitting,
You talking about currently or as proposed?
as proposed 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
I also did not like the fact that a room where 8 persons were working was accessible only by one door, and that door was the same door that the customers came through. I kind of suspect there might be a fire code issue there with a room with 8 people with only one door in it. So, this drawing that you see before you now, the basic concept is I took building, assessing, and I flipped them in their location with the town clerk's and the tax collector's office. Starting on the far right, bottom, you essentially have the same arrangement that the architect presented to us as an in and outdoor, but that service window is for building, zoning, assessing issues. It would, the clerk assisting at that service window, it's Mary, she would have access to or allow people to come in through the controlled access door, such as Scott would still have a private office.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Oh, maybe I'm jumping ahead.
Mhm.
Is you talking about this here is Scott's office?
Next up.
This here?
Yep.
Okay, and you didn't get to, you didn't get to this area yet, right?
No, I haven't gotten
Okay.
further to the left.
Okay.
The idea why I wanted to flip the 2 major groups of people is I believe that the town clerk, their need for square footage, they have outgrown the front corner of this building. And no matter how wonderful you can come up with cubicle designs, it still isn't gonna fit. They need more space. So I put in the front corner of the building, the assessing building, their administrative help, the sewer, and they also desire to have a spare desk in case the building requirement expands in the future. Moving further to the left, next to the windows, you'll see a short hallway and another door going into the rest of all the assortment of rooms. That allows the entire side of that building to be interconnected without going out into the hallway. There's a space there for the tax collector who could deal with the public through a service window, or if necessary, a person could be allowed to come through a door in the hallway and sit at the tax collector's desk for more privacy. Or just dealing with the window for the tax collector would achieve some privacy because they're in a short hallway. Further to the left, you have a larger space, which is two service windows for the town clerks and the elected town clerk. Those spaces have been designed such that there's a low shelf for one particular type of printer. I labeled it DM for dot matrix printer. And the other, which is a state requirement type printer there. Whereas depending on their left or right, there would be a stacked printer for the other requirements they have. People could, by having people in the hallway, I'm taking advantage of the fact that we have extra wide hallways, and rather than trying to fit into a small in and out space as they're doing now on the first floor, the upper level floor. And then finally, further to the left is basically the same arrangement of planning actions and the planning zoning officer. They could have their own window. And I made a wall in there, light gray, could be a wall, doesn't need to be a wall. Further, and then there's another controlled entrance door. So altogether, the entire side of that building has 3 controlled access spaces. They're all interconnected. The same arrangement of a service window is across the hall for the town assistant administrator, the clerical staff for the town administration, who would allow people to come into the welfare office, and that would be a controlled access area. In the hallway, on the front of the building, I kept the 2 doors for fire enclosure. On the rear of the building, I took the door and the architect had a door in the center of the hallway, which to me needed the door. I'm not a fire expert here, but to me, I think the door ought to be centered on the staircase, not on the center of the hallway.
Plus it gives you more room, it allows for that controlled access door swing.
Yes. So, this is, I kept the same bathroom modifications that the architect had, making it more handicapped accessible and putting the proper grab bars in there. So, I just went the extra mile thinking everything I could about security and not constrained by the fact that town clerk office, if it's been a tradition to be in the front corner of this building for 50 years, by golly, it always had to be there, because to me, they've outgrown their floor space requirement.
Scott? Yeah, I was gonna say, I talked to David about this over the weekend, and, my big thing was just trying to make it a bit more secured than it is now, and I think that this largely achieves that, without, I think there's a couple little tweaks to this, but I think it's a great job. Even on the other side of the building where, I'm going to assume that even though there's a door to, say, administration, a door to clerical, and a door to the treasurer, those can be locked, or one of them could just be the primary way in and out with a controlled, whether you use a prox card reader or something of that nature, but not anybody can get in there. And in the same case, where, Catherine is now, that, the 208 there's a window. And again, that provides some modicum of security. The one thing that I saw that might be able to, work equally as well, and that is rather than here where you put the tax kind of, below where the bathrooms are. If you created another service window and just put the tax right here, this way, because they are cross-trained, they can help out on any of those functions here. And then I think what's gonna happen is you're gonna need, as Sue said to me, there's files that are all the way over here that really belong to this function. They can now move into that space. So, I think it's a great, I mean, I give you total compliments on
You
this.
made the comment 3 weeks ago that radical changes in floor design usually goes through 5 generations of significant changes before everyone realizes that you got a more perfect design in the end.
But I think that,
I'm trying to generate that discussion.
I just think that this achieves, the security perspective. I don't think it makes it cold, to the community, but service windows are very common. And I also think that you achieved a lot in terms of listening to what, like, the town clerk in particular was talking about in terms of their printer locations, that there's not a whole lot of, you don't have to go walk halfway across the room to get the prints. I mean, they need to literally just, they'd be in almost an arm's reach. And I think maybe the next step is to, let the staff see it. What do they think? Can it work? But I think it's a awesome job.
I was very tempted today to do the next generation of all these changes, and I wanted to pick up on some comments by our town administrator. Sue offered that a good idea that what we see is room 208 and 204. Those rooms could essentially be the town clerk office, and with service windows facing the hallway and facing the service windows across the hall, which would then be the normal planning, building staff that we have today. And those two service windows essentially would be across the hall from each other. One would have visibility into the other persons across the hall for security. And in that case, the town administrator would move into the front corner.
I kind of took,
Steve
I'm just
wanted to
looking
make a
jump
comment.
in. I love the idea how you're moving, that you don't wanna be pigeonholed into what was traditionally there and move things around. But what I have been watching last several times that we've spoken about this is we keep talking about security. And I don't know of any security problems that we had, but when I look at this and I see all these service windows, I tell you, I look at this and I say, this is not the Goffstown Town Hall I know. It just looks very cold. When I come to the town hall, in other words, there's several ways of doing business, especially in this electronic age. We can do our car registrations electronically. We can do everything electronically. Those people who do come to town hall, and I'm gonna say I'm one of them, I love that interaction. I like being able, coming in and talking with them. When I see these security windows, I don't think I see that in a bank anymore. I mean, in other words, I'm able to walk up to the counter and look right across the person at the counter, not through a window.
But you're assuming it's a window.
May I finish? You've had plenty of time to go through here. I'm saying that we've had an old town feel within this town hall that I've highly enjoyed. I don't know how the staff would be. I don't know how the town would be. My question, I guess, really is there really a security issue to that extent? Because I think we're really changing something, and it gives me the view of sterile. It just gives me a sterile view. That's just, I mean, I'm not talking about, I love the mechanics you did regarding how, for them to perform their functions, and hopefully that can make it flow better, but it just has a sterile view, and it's not that village feel. That's all I'm gonna say.
Scott?
I didn't, if I look at the tax collector right now, or even the town clerk, I look at those as like stations. So I don't think I envision that you're gonna have glass partitions with like little things to talk into. I didn't really envision, I envision
A
it,
lot of times they just have a small piece of glass, you're still talking
you're
to the
still
person,
talking to the person,
provides
but
a little
it
barrier.
provides a slight barrier so that, but you're still talking, just like it is, it's a counter, which is very much like what we have now. And if you look at, say, the tax collector specifically, it's very similar to that. Very much like you go to the bank teller, you still see the bank teller.
I don't have glass in between me and the bank when I go inside the bank. That's all I'm saying. That's, in other words, I understand if I'm going through a drive-through, things of that
I'm not
nature.
even
But
saying
when I
there's
go,
glass.
you can go into the bank, the local town bank over here, and I can look directly. And it takes, in other words, I'm going there for personal service, unless there's some real issues that we don't know about regarding security. That's what people come. That's a good thing. Yeah, I just feel that this becomes impersonal. I think it's a little colder. That's, in other words, it doesn't take away from all the good planning here regarding structure, just that one
Yeah,
piece.
well, the Department of Labor has come down on some small communities that had no barriers between revenue collectors and the public.
Yeah, and I'm not talking cameras, I'm just talking the glass
They,
part.
well, they came down, and at one point, one small town said that they were required to put bulletproof glass in between. I think Department of Labor has relaxed that a bit, but there is a desire by them to put safety measures and protections between revenue collection and the public.
And I would, a couple of points. I would say that the counter height, width, all of those things that you experience at a bank are not by accident. You know, they're designed at a certain height, certain width, to allow you to freely communicate with the clerk, but make it difficult for someone to get over that barrier without allowing people to get out of the immediate area, which we would have here. And we could have the same type thing that you would have at a bank, so you're getting that personal feel. My only suggestion, and I'll just throw this out, I have a concern that the busiest office that we have, which is the town clerk, especially during auto registration, has individuals waiting in the hallway. So when people are queued up, we could conceivably have a crowd of people, and we have that now.
Right.
They sit out in the stairwell. But my thought is, and this, I'll just throw this out as a suggestion, if we took the service windows that are in the hallway and moved them into that little hallway that you have by the tax collector and widened that area. In other words, you have that service window going down to the tax collector.
This one here you're talking about?
Yes.
The one on my drawing.
Yeah.
So you have a service window on the right for the tax collector. Could you take the two service windows that you have now facing the hallway, move them opposite, widen that hallway a little? You're gonna make up your space because you will no longer have your service windows.
This is great.
There.
You're getting into the third and fourth generations already.
But it provides you a queuing area, seating area, so people are actually out of the hallway.
Well, see, I see that as dangerous, having these places inside that
Lobbies.
people
Yeah.
can really,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I see it, and I would, wherever we go with this, I would want police and fire to review the plans before we.
Can I ask a question, and this goes on that? I think one of the things, though, that we need to, also to address that, is the times that you have this issue are basically the end of the month and the middle of the month, is that correct? The middle and the end of the month? How many days out of,
Well, the beginning or the end of the month.
Yeah.
okay, the beginning of the end of,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry, the beginning of the end of the month.
But if you have 4 workstations handling it rather than just 2.
Well, that's
speed up.
the thing, okay, is the point that Nick makes is about the queuing in the hallway. We have a couple of chairs out there that people do sit, people come in, and they have their children with them sometimes, okay? So, they have to keep an eye on them. 2 windows over here rather than going into one, because as is right now, you're going into one doorway to go into the town clerk.
Right.
And you have that double counter, okay? I think it might be useful to know how many what do we get? I mean, are we talking 3 days out of the month that we get, do we get 20 people in? Some kind of a trend so that we have an idea of what we're dealing with. so that we could look at it, because the concern that I would have is to make a major change like that to try to accommodate something that might only be 4 days out of the month, or 5 days out of the month. And so we'd have to take a look at that.
I never see 20 people.
No, I'm just throwing a number
Maybe
out.
5.
But-
I'm just throwing a
but,
number out because we don't have a number.
A good percentage of the time, I do see 2 people being serviced at the town clerk's office at the same time. I really do,
Right.
If I may just follow up, then, the only other suggestion I would have is if those service windows in the hallway could be recessed into the office
Yeah.
just a bit, so the person standing at the window is out of the line, that imaginary hallway line.
Yep.
Just kind of
Yeah, that might be,
Stepped in.
that might be a good idea.
Just another comment, and I did notice that also with the hallway, because when they went to where it is currently, in other words, all these people and all the other officers who are working, coming in and out, that line always kind of went out, and they would hang around that entrance at the stairway. It's almost an area for waiting, and where in this case, you are in the middle of the hall, and you do have everybody there. I mean, where prior to that, you could just walk up the stairs, people would clear, and then the hallway would be clear to go whatever office you needed to go to.
If I can, I would say, though, I do like David, the way you rearranged this and flipped it over. I think it's a nice design, and it accounts for all of that. Multiple access points, ability to leave in a different direction. It doesn't have that one
way in.
One way in, and I think it's a better use of space. I think you did a very good job.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Looking at this drawing here now, especially with these new double doors, fire enclosure doors here across the front and the back, the front area is traditionally very cold, that area of the building. And I guess the question that I have is, by putting a double door there at the end of that, closing in that cold area that's out there, okay? And now we have that, I guess the question, though, or the concern that I have is how that's gonna handle the temperature. And I guess along with that, are these double doors, when I remember the discussion when Alan was here, the downstairs, the level that we're on is the level that's sprinklered. Am I correct? This level, we're
Down here.
sprinklered.
Down here.
Right, we're sprinklered. Upstairs is not sprinklered.
Right.
Are these doors required because there's no sprinkler upstairs? If it was sprinkled upstairs, do those doors, are they required?
You could handle the door by having automatic closures. So in other words, the doors are held open, but as soon as the fire alarm goes off, they close automatically.
Okay.
So you could keep them in an open position as long as there's some system to, a magnetic catch, something that will release the door when the alarms go off.
Okay, but if the second level was sprinklered, will we still require those doors?
I think they would, but I don't know. We'd have to look at the codes for that.
Well, I just,
It's one of airflow too, and heat.
Right. Minimize movement of smoke, and those are your exits.
okay.
Mr. Chair, I thought you were going on to the heating, and that's a good idea, though. In making enclosures from the staircase lobby, we're gonna have to make sure that there is heat out there in the staircase. I'm not sure there is. You know, that's another feature for an architect to look at, is,
Okay. I mean, is that something, though, is that a question we should find out? If there's any changes in code, if that second floor, if the upper level that we're looking at was sprinklered? I mean, to see if there was any advantage to sprinklering it, is that something that we wanna look at?
I think what you would find is that the cost of sprinkling would be much greater than just simply running ductwork into that foyer to add heat there, or
Well, I didn't mean it just for that. I
magnetic
mean,
closures.
just to find out what the difference would be. Code requirement, because I have no.
You'd have a safer building. I mean, that would.
will be encumbering the HVAC money this year because we wanted to wait till this plan was done before we replace the HVAC units in case other
Right.
changes had to be
Which
made for
makes
that
sense.
purpose. Also, keep in mind, currently in the town clerk's office, we have that Heat Smart backup system that's supposed to be used if they ever turn off our electricity during Heat Smart.
Right.
So there is a supplementary charcoal heater in that room now. So that room is toasty.
During peak demand, they could turn off.
Yes, for 4 hours.
All right. Any
Would our
other?
generator
Charcoal.
kick in?
Charcoal, did you say?
Yeah, it's,
Charcoal,
Charcoal.
charcoal
Yeah,
heater.
you know, like a grill?
It's the
Kingsford.
it's the
Edge.
red, it's a,
Kingsford.
Yeah, Kingsford.
it's a false fireplace with red lights revolving.
I realize they don't have charcoal grill going, I'm just having fun.
Any other questions or comments on this? So where are we gonna, what direction are we gonna take from what we have
Biggest
in front?
concern I had in either the one I gave you suggesting where to, it doesn't have the detail Dave's has, or Dave's, is the fact that the architect had pointed out that the safes and those fireproof shelves for vital statistics require, they're safe where they are now because they're on a cement floor, which is what the town clerk's office is.
Right.
He's not sure if structurally any other part of the building could handle that kind of weight.
I think my question there is, to ask the people who use it every day, are you going in these things all the time? If it's a once a day thing, then going downstairs, I don't know, I just don't, or if they were downstairs, is it something that's used all the time? And a lot of times, things like that aren't, and we have a vault down in the basement, I'm just asking that question. If it-
Where are they in Dave's, in your plan? Where are
I did not even attempt to move copy machines, safe, tables. I didn't even attempt to do all that. Filing cabinets.
So
That
where's
was
the
That was
safe
a
right
level
now?
of detail I wasn't
Is
gonna-
this the safe?
No, that's a cubicle you're pointing to.
Okay, so where is the safe on here?
I didn't even attempt to
Well,
do
look
all
on this
that.
one, it's here. Another
File,
one here.
file cabinets,
Okay,
safes,
okay.
copy machines,
Okay.
work tables.
Conceptual.
I think they would fit, but I wasn't gonna work at it.
Well, let me ask this question,
I mean, you've got
and I
This
think
is-
Scott's point
way more than
is,
pounds where these files are. It's huge.
I think Scott's point is valid, is how often do they have to access those?
I think they go in there daily.
And
How many times a day? I don't
That's my
know.
question, yeah. how
Could
many-
It is daily,
Well,
we
I
know
guess
it's daily.
The reason that what it brings up, is it make any sense to put that type of storage downstairs? And I'm just, I don't know.
And I would offer to this, rather than one very heavy safe, could there be 3 safes of a smaller size, and therefore placed at different locations, so that the weight isn't all in one
Now, these are
place.
fire safes, right? Not
There are
security.
2 fire safes, and then there are 2 fireproof shelves for all the vital records that we got the grant to buy.
Well,
Those
the
are
vital-
900 pounds
yeah,
each
but
without
the vital records,
anything in them.
those vital records that you're talking about, they're upstairs right now on the concrete
Yes.
floor. I guess the question is, how many times do they access that storage?
I would have to ask Kathy.
If it's not, if vital records are not something that are accessed several times a day, if they're accessed a few times a week, is it feasible to put them someplace else so we don't have to use space upstairs? Because,
Yeah, the other thing too is if you look at where planning is right now, you have those bank of files. Those are probably more than 900 pounds, I'd venture to say. And so if those files can be supported there, and that's not concrete.
Yeah, we had a
Fart Road.
structural engineer come in and say it was safe to put it there before we.
No, and I understand that,
It's
but
an
I guess.
it's an open room below that. There's no walls
I
down
understand,
there.
right, and that's my point, is that I think we just need to where can these things go?
I think those moving cabinets that are currently in planning need to stay there because they access those continuous.
Oh, yeah, yeah, right.
And those are assessing records as well
Right,
as building
right.
records in there, too.
Other than the safe, if you look at the two cabinets that are currently in the clerk's office on your existing plans, they could stay right where they are, and that spare desk just be made, that spare cubicle be made smaller. I mean, there's nothing else in that corner. The clerks would still have access to it, secure access to that area. So really, you're only looking at the safe. My only question about the safe would be, what is it that they're accessing the safe for? If they're moving money and things like that, you really wouldn't want to kind of defeat your security by
Right.
having them go downstairs
Right.
or into
Right.
another area.
Right, generally, money, though, is not kept in a fire safe. Money is kept in a security safe. There's two different types of safes. Generally, but if you don't have a security safe
Right,
and
all
all
we
you
have
have
is
is a
one
fire
safe,
safe,
so-
you might use it, and that might be something that we need to address.
I think staff should be looking at this and playing with it a little bit.
Okay, so,
'Cause I think it's very healthy that they saw one plan, now they've seen another. I
My
mean,
fear is the interior hallways is cutting down on the amount of space, and we're trying to maximize the use of space.
Well, it does what interior hallways would do.
well, all right, and I guess what I was trying to say is you could almost eliminate that interior hallway just by putting another
Another
service
service
window
window.
right there, and then putting your
That's-
tax collector here. And then this now remains open for another cubicle, which you would then give up because you're gonna leave your safe there or something. I mean, so there's so much that you can
The
do.
important thing, if we ask the staff to massage this for another round of revisions, the point we're doing here tonight is we've given them a lot of options,
Oh, most definitely.
more than what we had 3 weeks ago.
okay, let me ask a question. On this one here, okay, and I don't know, maybe on this one, where the service windows are, and on here where it has revenue collection up here, that one where 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 4, are those just openings in the existing wall, or is this fully open across? And this is, as Steve pointed out, kinda like when you go to the bank, you have that counter there? Am I making myself,
I don't understand what you're saying.
where you have
There are
revenue
4
collection?
individual
You
windows
have
or
4
one open
openings in a
space.
wall,
Yeah.
or have we put a header across there? We've
don't think
opened up the
that's-
entire wall, and
that's a
now we have a
design
counter
element.
going across
Hasn't been
with that.
decided.
In my case, Mr. Chair, where I had a stack of printers between the two service windows.
Right.
That, to the customer in the hallway, they're seeing a wall
In this area right here?
between the two
Yeah,
clerks.
that's-
Yes,
okay.
that's a wall from the hallway perspective.
Okay, but I'm wondering if that might address some of the concerns that Steve has.
Can I just throw something out there? And I'm sure everyone's experienced the same piece. You go into planning, you have that big, long
Right.
counter, and sometimes I'm talking to Scott or somebody, and all of a sudden, the other person will hear it, they have that information, and they chime in, and I think security is important, but I don't know if we have a security problem. I don't look at this as a bank. I look at this as a place where people come and conduct business and have that personal piece. But like I said, when you're in that planning piece, you can be talking to someone and someone can chime up and say, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, that piece of information. It's where thoughts and ideas are exchanged and things flow. When when I see this, I'm not talking about the structure behind, but when I see windows, I see this mechanical operation, I'm in line, next. Now, I'm not sure if that's efficient. I'm not sure if it, I don't wanna say if it gives the right message, but
Yeah, it's just the impression that it gives you, a
Is it-
person that walks in there.
yes,
That's-
and if someone was to tell me that we had some real security issues, I understand that. I've never known us to have any. If I'm speaking out, somebody let me know. But that's what I like seeing. I like it when so be I'm in planning, or be it I walk into the to go pay taxes or register my vehicle. I enjoy coming. You know, I don't
think
know if
I-
I'm gonna see it with a window.
It's for that reason that I
But then again, maybe I'm not your
I
good
didn't
customer.
attempt to do a profile on what those service windows were.
I think that, I think the big thing is, as much as I have to respect your opinion, all of our opinions, I have to respect the opinions of the people who work here even more, and, I don't know if they ever feel like issues are, you know, are imminent simply because they don't have anything, and we work in the same town, so if you go to Bedford, I never get the impression that it's cold there, even though they do have windows, there's 3 windows there, the people there are really nice when I've had to register a car, I've never really had an issue, so I think it's more about the people than it is, you know, a window, and I would just be, I'm not advocating for a window or for not a window, but I would like to see what the employees feel, because I can tell you, most people who service the customer, that I've ever worked with, they do like a little bit of a barrier. You know, whether it is a window or whether it's a countertop, they like that little separation so that if someone is a close talker, they're not, you know, talking too close to them where they feel a little bit intimidated. But that being said, I think this is a very workable thing. I think it's now just a matter of letting the staff take a look at it and come up with some ideas as well.
Nick, do you have, so just addressing that security issue, I mean, we've been very fortunate here in Goffstown as far as security is
Other
concerned.
towns haven't been, though.
Well, exactly, and, you know, when we got the security system, when I first got on board, we had no alarm here in town hall, there was no alarm. And we got the alarm as a response to the shooting that they had up north.
Newberry, was it?
Yeah, Newberry, okay, with that. And, you know, when something like that happens, you know, it's always the hindsight, you know what I'm saying, that makes you look at stuff. And I guess also the fact that I served on PLT, where we were responsible, insurance-wise, because we covered all the municipalities. So as far as the perspective from PLT, as far as covering the towns for this, having those discussions that there are some towns that have absolutely zero type of security, okay, that don't even think about security, and that's the town, that's what happened to Newberry. Newberry was a town like that, a very close-knit town, people knew each other, all of a sudden, a resident came in, and a few people got killed. We put that security system in, and I'll tell you, there were several residents in town that really were upset that the Board of Selectmen spent money to put a security system into town. They brought up exactly what you were talking about, you know, that coldness, oh, now we have a security system in the town hall. The town hall, public building, is a security. I mean, that's what happens. And employees that work here, I mean, you know, you talk about the Town Clerks Association. If something happens in one state, and whether it's Vermont or whether it's in Massachusetts, they're a group, and they know about that stuff. They'll get their publications, and they'll have that. So these people, these folks that work for us, they're aware of that. Tax collectors, in the Tax Collectors Association, they're all aware of what goes on. So in their own environment, they're aware of things that we aren't aware of. So.
And just along those lines, there's a whole host of things that you can do for security that range from lighting, glass, windows, counter height, as far as cameras, security button, panic buttons.
Right.
I think the job that we have before us, utilizing the police department, fire department, our contracted architects, is to find that balance. One,
Oh,
to
absolutely.
prevent it looking like a sterile Fort Knox, allowing for that personal interaction, providing security, and the financial cost. All of those things will come into play, and then we'll have to find a balance that weighs all of those ideas, because I agree with you. You don't want to feel like you're coming in and you're just a person and, you know, take the ticket off the machine, and when they call your number, you walk up.
Go
But yet-
outside, wait outside on the park bench, and when they call your
Right.
number, you can
And-
come
and
in and
simply-
they'll take your money.
And simply because a certain bank branch hasn't had a robbery, doesn't mean that they no longer need security. So, you have to balance everything to, one, provide security for your employees, but also provide that personal.
One other thing that we may want to look at too on this, once we get an idea of the floor layout, what we might want to do is look at what it's going to look at, from the.
An elevation.
Yeah, an elevation on that.
Now, if you're trying to build in security, why would you allow the public back here? I noticed there were 2 chairs here for customers and 2 chairs here for customers.
That's not for customers.
Well, in the assessing office, yes, Scott frequently will have people in there discussing.
But you would, right, but you would, you have to, you tweak,
Yes.
you're gonna tweak.
Mary pushes the button that allows the door to be unlocked, and the customers come back and visit Scott.
I'm saying, that's one where, I think if you talk to police, they would tweak that, so
Yeah.
that no person is ever in the general work area,
Right.
ever.
Right.
So
You have
would-
another
would-
meeting
yeah,
room to
yeah,
go to
you-
for
you-
that.
You're gonna tweak, I mean, I think, same thing with, like, you have welfare, like, there would be a door from the outside where you come in, you don't come in through this area to go to the, you wouldn't, I mean, that's just, and I only say this because, when, in our office, when we've done this, same thing, we keep the general public on the outside of the general work area, and then we go to them half the time, or it's something
meeting
where,
room
it's right,
where
it's a
they go.
meeting room, and, yeah. But, I think it's a great first start.
Yeah.
Really do. Pay you money.
Yeah, I think it's.
The next step is a drive-up window.
It's his bill.
Derry has that, and they never use it.
They don't.
Never
Really?
used.
Never use
Never
it.
used.
Never
It
gets used.
took over a bank. It used to be a bank.
Yeah.
Catherine, I'm
They
just
could use
curious,
it
how
as
many
a
people
revenue
actually
generator.
come to you for service?
A ton.
Yeah.
They come to me if they don't know where to go in the building. They come to me because they don't realize the court's not gone. They come to me because
Okay.
anything in the face of the planet you can
Right.
think somebody laughs, they'll come.
And I always tell people, if you go to
Because
town
then
hall, you
if
can't
you
find
did
it, go
do
see
this
Catherine
approach,
Tracy.
This
Yes, I
window
get that,
wouldn't be
I
here.
get that all the time.
You'd
People
have a
say you're the
window here
go-to
so that
person
she
that I
could
should
see
come to.
And vice versa,
Yep.
for security.
Okay, so.
You're the one person that doesn't have a counter in front of them. So you're,
Well, she got a counter in front of
Does.
her, but it's
Does.
inside the room. Okay, what's our next step here? What are we
Staff,
gonna
I
do
think.
here now?
I think it's staff input and come up with different iterations.
Okay, but I
based
guess
upon
the question, so we have these two?
that. And then we have the one that Alan, yep.
Alan
Okay,
did.
all right.
Mine isn't detailed, just where the office is, possible office
I-
locations, if the
Okay.
flooring is not an issue.
And I think from there, wouldn't it go back to
We
Alan?
build in a lot of what
Wouldn't it
Dave
go
put
back
in
to Alan and say,
his.
okay, Alan, here are now the 3 or 4 other ideas. Can you give us, here are some other ideas. Give us 3 or 4.
Well, when do you want police and fire involved? Because
And- well,
police are the
there's- Well,
that's
security
what I was gonna
experts, and
ask.
fire is the
There's
fire
staff,
experts.
But I think first things first, I would think is you would be talking to the folks in this building.
Yeah.
What would you like to see? And which you've kind of done this, but are there
Right.
others? Then get police and fired, and then, but I thought that when we got this, that we were gonna get, I've come up with 3 or 4 different designs based upon staff, not one. And here are the different options. Here's some pros and cons,
Land use likes their setup. It's very functional the way it is. They like their setup now.
And also have Mark look at what is the heat in the front lobby. He should, as a building inspector, he ought to be able to figure that out.
In the front offices or the lobby?
Now, if the 2 doors on the upper level were
Yep.
closed,
The rest
how
of us
is
would be
that,
warmer.
how is the staircase lobby being heated?
Yeah, I'd have to look and see if there's any vents or returns up there now.
I have no idea.
I think Nick's point was a good one. I think you might have to recess some of these things in so that if you do have some queuing, it's not a
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Where do we stand on the contractual arrangements with Mr. Eaton?
He realizes that there'll be changes to it, but I think if we can get this done internally as much as possible and get some consensus, and then say, will this work, and use him for his expertise, and will this work? I think
Just
it's a way to go.
To Scott's point, I would say instead of giving him 2 or 3 ideas, if staff PD, you know, all of those
Say,
people.
here's what we've got.
This is the concept we
Draw it up,
want.
yeah.
Yep.
Try, right.
Yeah.
Well, I
make this
misunderstood.
work.
I thought Scott meant that he thought that we were gonna get 3 different ideas.
Personally, I thought we
That-
were gonna get 3 or 4 different concept ideas, yeah. But now we're going a
Well, I
little bit.
think also the architect was working within some kind of cost
Right.
Right.
thoughts
a
too, and that's
constraint.
why
Yeah.
you didn't
But the
see
good,
a lot
thing
of
here, though, is
movement.
that, again, I'm
Yes,
I'm not a contractor, but not having to take down a masonry wall should, and, I mean, I think some of these will be far less expensive than
Well, there
taking
might be
down-
other things, other considerations as far as where the safes are gonna go.
And you
Right,
have, and
yeah.
air hand, I mean, the HVAC is huge, too. You have to have,
Oh, yeah.
But Art works with Alan, so Art could address the structural engineering piece for the safes and the.
All right, so,
can I
Okay,
ask one
I'll
thing?
meet
Is
with-
it also safe to say, though, that maintaining the center hallway is a must? Is that what everyone seems to? Because
That's what I'm hearing.
one thing that has never been discussed is actually closing off, and making it, there was a
I
notion.
think you're getting into a different dollar figure.
Not necessarily, because I'm just saying that this wouldn't be open to the general public in terms of security, so you
Well, I-
I
might put
think you're into a different.
Actually, see,
No,
your
I'm not.
ADA
I'm not.
accessibility is always to the front door.
and I understand that. I'm talking about if right here, there was windows all, along here where people were working behind, right in here, that's all I'm saying. And that's not, I never got that impression.
So-
The consensus was that would not happen, that maintaining the central hallways what people liked.
Well, I don't think you could get enough space in the front and back for the public access, because you have, look at the public access you need. You need it for revenue collection, and you need it for this whole planning office.
Well, I guess
Penya's
what I
office.
was saying was that if you did it like this, where these were the banks, well, actually you have your bathroom, so that wouldn't work, but,
there is one major advantage of this with the central hallway, the way this is laid out. Regardless of which way you come in, I mean, the building has curb appeal from the road. It's a good-looking
but
town
it has
hall.
functionality from the back, yeah.
Well, it does. It's, the parking lot
Right,
is in the back.
right.
The majority of the parking in the front is used for the businesses. People who park out in front of town hall are going across the street to get food or going to the, couple of the stores that are over there. But you come in, if you do happen to come in through the front, you can still access the entire facility, downstairs, upstairs, town clerk, anybody you want. Or if you come from the back,
We do?
you have the same accessibility. So, I mean, I think that gives you a,
Yeah.
kind of what you're talking about, I don't know, Goffstown, it feels like Goffstown.
So the center hallway, right, it's a given, okay.
Okay. I'll
All
take
right,
it to staff.
so, Sue, you know what you're gonna be doing.
Yep, taking it to staff, showing them 3 different scenarios, and come back to you with a 4th.
No, well, you might come back to with a list of other thoughts that we might take a,
I'm surprised what the employees will.
And could we have Selectman Pierce involved with that? Because he,
Mhm.
would probably be the best one to draw up the conceptual.
Would have liked to be a fly on the wall when I gave Sue this drawing this morning. I could imagine her immediately going down the Neil saying,
Fix it, fix
crash
it.
and make a drawing.
Fix it.
Anything else besides what he's done.
Oh, I would think that she said something else, but I
Yeah,
would
sure.
repeat it.
No, no, Dave
I never have to cover my
had some
ears.
great ideas in his design that I think, I didn't get to that level of detail, but I just,
No, I just meant it because
I
it's the
know
first
that
day
land
back
use
from
is
vacation.
happy with, and the functionality they have,
Yeah.
and it's working. And they all talk to each other on a
That's-
regular basis.
that's
So
fine.
I'd hate to divide them up. But I also agree with Dave that the town clerk, tax collector need more space and more functional space. So that's why I suggested to him moving across the hall and doing something
And
there.
you know, there's another thing that we might look at. The age of those safes. Okay, the fire safe, because they have a rating. And I wouldn't be surprised if the age of that safe, it's not even fire rated anymore. and that it might be worthwhile to look and see what's available on the market today, because you might get a safe that has twice the capacity for the same fire rating.
And if they're both in the same room, they can,
Well, you might be able to replace that safe with a new safe that has twice the capacity, and might be less weight.
right.
I just don't want to constrain ourselves simply because I understand the land use office works well the way it is. No one ever likes change, but if concepts can come up, and we think outside the box and come up with a better flow for the resident that works, obviously also allows good workflow. But I just don't want to block out, looking at the land use office or, moving that around simply because it's always been that way.
Oh, and I'm not saying it's 'cause it's always been that way. It's just, it works for them because they can all hear each other and communicate easily with each other.
It's the same reason why we want to have a revenue collection, so
Yep.
that you have 4 or 5 people that can all help
That
each
can
other
help you.
out.
Yep.
And getting the two most
Yeah.
public
And
offices
you know
across
what?
from each other.
This isn't this one that you came up with, when you think about it, finance, assistant town administrator, accountant, bookkeeper, HR, I mean, they don't have interaction with the
Right.
public.
They can be closed
They
off.
just don't.
There really is no reason for anybody
And
to
same
come
with
into Linda's
IT,
office.
so I mean, this has good benefits to it as well, I mean, it's.
does.
Yeah, there is no reason for any public interaction with either finance director or Linda.
Right, they
No.
only have internal customers.
No, the only time,
Employees.
the only time you might get somebody in finance, if it's a vendor and there's an issue, something to go.
They usually call.
Well, yeah, that was my point.
Most often, it's Linda meeting with an employee on benefit selection or something like that.
Yeah.
And she'd just go down
Let
the
me
meeting
just,
room.
let me throw something else in then. Is there a reason why those offices couldn't be moved to the lower level and open up space upstairs? Those non-public interaction offices, with the exception of the administrative office, because that does have a degree of, just throwing that out, and I don't need an answer, I'm just saying it's something that you might want to think of. Is there space on the lower level where they could move to free up and allow more flexibility in the design
So, I mean, it's something to
upstairs?
consider, but my first thought on it would be probably not, but it would be something to look at. Because the fact that this is sprinklered, this is basically our assembly usage that we have down here that we use for the meeting rooms. We've expanded across the hall, tried to expand across the hall for the other meetings for GTV 16. The only office that I could think of down here might be up there in the front, but that really wouldn't, I don't think, where the,
Clerks used to be.
yeah, the clerks used to be. Or the office in the back here where the juvenile division was. In the
That's now a server room.
It's
Well, that's
totally,
server.
totally full of server.
Yeah, okay, so,
Just thought.
And air handler for the server.
okay. Yeah, and we have that room back there now, which is for Andrew.
Yep,
There's the
and,
wave.
Yeah. Okay, so Sue's got your direction?
Yes.
All right, you want to repeat to me, because I don't remember, I don't know what you did.
To get input from staff here,
Okay,
and then gets input from fire and police on fire and security issues.
okay,
And come up with a design and bring that back to the board with Dave.
for
Dave,
suggestions.
yeah,
For-
Dave will map it out for us, and go from there.
Okay, good. All right, so the next item then is this discussion on social media. Who's gonna lead that off, Sue?
Well, we did go to that conference on social media, and I think, Dave, were you at that one?
Yes, I
Yes.
sat in.
And they talked about the risk and rewards of social media, and using social media by government. The biggest risk I heard were if you were allowing people to post, because then you're into freedom of speech
That'd
and
be a
those
no.
issues, right to know law issues, because you have a
Let's
quorum.
keep going.
Yeah, okay,
So-
yeah, let's make that
We
easy.
know, that's a given.
We were just
Okay.
looking for
Yeah.
The next thing is, if you're going to use Facebook or one of the social media, you need an administrator of it.
Right,
And an administrator who you can control what goes
or
out.
content, right.
The content. When we first started the website when I was here, the board at that time said, we're only doing government issues, government-related issues. We're not getting into all the community events. Now I'm hearing that we want to go into that arena of community events. Caution there is, how do you control that? Because there may be a community event that,
I have one. I have an idea. They fill out event permit licenses. So if they're filling out an event permit license, is that a way to somehow control it? Because if someone, if there's a Maple Avenue PFT,
governmental purpose, you've
right,
issued a permit.
Right, we're issuing a permit. That's one option. But I was thinking more of, to start it off, it would be more Nixle-like, where not everybody subscribes to Nixle, but it's a way for us to push certain information that is government related, and that we start off with baby steps and not make it open to every Tom, Dick, and Harry group.
Right.
But we just start slow, and that is just push information that would be just more government related. Deliberative session is on this day, or there is
That would be wonderful to be able to push that out.
A
yeah.
dedication for the roundabout, something that's more totally, and then what I would envision us trying to get more collaborative with our cable access committee, and to try to broaden their scope a bit, and to see then can we try to incorporate some of these other activities. The reason why I say I would like to see us, one, take the baby steps, and then maybe eventually tie into the community groups, is the community groups are gonna drive traffic to our website, you know? And I think we want people coming to our website for information. So we want it to be a one-stop shopping, hopefully, for people to get, you know, that type of information. The only way you can draw them a lot of times, if they're coming here, is almost like it's a town calendar as to what's going on.
Yeah, but
So
But
who's
it's a
gonna,
baby step.
but let me ask this question then, okay? I hear that licenses or these permits, okay? Whose job function is this gonna be? And, I mean, what's the time commitment? Because as it is, a reason why I'm bringing this up, okay, is as we do more things, you know, it's like was brought up, you know, the thing about having Carl do some of the work for the rail trail. You know, we sit here, we give Carl the cemetery, we give Carl this, okay? So now we're doing all of this, and it's at the point where, I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, so many hours in the week, and we have so many employees. And you get to the point is, who is gonna do this? And if you give them this, where is this in the priorities? Because a person has all these things that are being assigned to them. They have to be prioritized for them to work on it. And
It doesn't take that long. I mean, again,
it's
if we,
easy to say it doesn't take that long, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to be the person to do it. If it's not gonna take that long, who's volunteering?
It depends on the extent. Are you just listing the event and where it is and
Right.
time and place? Or are you giving more details on what's going on there?
No, and I
if
think
it's gonna
that
look like
if
these
you've ever
electronic
seen
publications,
if you-
then
if you-
that's more
no,
info.
No, if you've ever,
They
usually
have to be
it's
short and sweet,
it's
or else
usually,
people will not
won't
read
even
them.
read it. I mean, it's usually one or two sentences tops, and it would simply be,
It's a reminder.
check out, I mean, I'm just gonna use a Main Street event, come celebrate, what do they call it?
Christmas tree lighting?
Christmas tree lighting or something like that on the town common tonight, great opportunity, whatever, boom, 3 sentences. Or, dedication to the town of the Wallace Mass Road Roundabout will take place, at 8:30 on Saturday morning, and that's really the gist of it. I don't think we're gonna, I don't envision this, we're gonna be, for one, if you do too many posts, people then don't read them. So you need to be somewhat selective, and if you start off slow, and it's only governmental things, and then we charge our cable access committee, to make it more social media, let them.
The same page?
What? No.
Okay,
Let them
something
work
separate.
on the policies. I don't think it's our job to figure this out. I mean, they do go hand in hand. And when we say to ourselves, right now, I mean, it's all about communication. I mean, we're paying someone to stay here while we tape our meetings. That's pretty, and all we're talking about is someone to key in 2 sentences to communicate with the public. So I think we start off slow, let cable access charge expand, let them come up with the policies. If we do expand beyond more than just governmental stuff, and we do incorporate, then the event permit license might be an easy one, where you simply limit it to 2 or 3 sentences, and that's what we'll key in, and that's what also gets approved. And I don't think that would be that hard.
Nick? I agree with going slow, because I'm not entirely convinced that we should be doing anything beyond governmental things. That being said, I don't see a problem with us providing links to Goffstown Main Street, or in Parks and Rec,
We do.
links to all of the various athletic organizations, and let them handle their own upcoming events on their own websites. But I'm not quite sure if we want to get into, every event that, if it's governmental related, the tree lighting on the town common, that has to do with the town, and
Right, but you're gonna
and I can
see, I
understand
think what you're gonna see, though, is that even governmental is gonna be really good, because for one, when you have, ban on parking due to the, now, we do that in Nixle, but you know what? Only so many people do that. Our Parks and Rec, it's time to sign up for basketball, it's time to.
Deadline is,
Do you know that we,
But
I
that's
mean,
all
the
government
library-
related.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and that's where you start. And I don't see it going like crazy where you're gonna be advertising someone's business or something, but I do see that there will be plenty to get it going there, and if we want to expand it, then
let
give it-
GTV do it with whatever they put on their bulletin board, they can do
Right,
their own
perhaps-
Facebook page and
right,
push it out there.
But I'm saying, let that committee come up with the ideas, let's just get it going.
But could I,
Yeah, Nick?
if I could, I think administratively, the policies have to come from town hall. Then GTV committee, or whoever that committee is, works within the confines of
From the board, I think the board has
the
to set
policy,
the
because that policy has to be drawn up in conjunction with, or in consultation with our town attorney, to make sure we're meeting, you look at the presentation that they had at that workshop, and there's a lot of
Right,
considerations.
but is
By
that
a
something that
lawyer.
has to come from this board, or
Yeah,
why can't we?
you're the policymakers.
No,
and
I
you-
understand we're the policymakers, but we also get draft ordinances that come from different places.
Oh.
you know.
Well, I think we have to draw, I wouldn't say we
No,
draw.
but we have to approve it, but I'm just saying, why
Right.
can't GTV expand their role, let them work on those policies as a committee, then bring them
But
forward?
we have to expand them,
Correct.
and that's what
Rec-
Sue's
rec-
working on, some of that stuff.
The other policy besides this whole social media in terms of what you're gonna post on your page and what messages you're gonna send out, the other part they discussed was an employee policy. Employees sometimes are privileged to information that the general public is not. But you have to control that. If they're on the scene of a gory accident, you don't want someone taking out their cell phone, taking a picture and posting it to their own personal Facebook page. They asked if we had policies regarding this. Now, I think our police and fire department may have SOPs related to this, but I think we need a town-wide, because it could be any town employee who happens to be at an incident and posting something like this to them.
Or anything during budget season, I think we should have this, and why are they not giving us this, and
Yeah.
how are we supposed to do our job if we don't have?
But you still have to
certain
recognize
things.
employees have the right to
Have the right to do that
comment.
individually.
But if in
but
the
not-
course of their day, they
right.
come on to something that they don't
Almost
have the right to post that.
Insider information type thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
But see, that's where I think we need full-time staff having communication with a town attorney to draw up the framework of that policy, and not, I don't think our board could do that.
Well, we might have some of that from LGC.
I can ask.
It's possible.
Typically, policies and, just like laws.
But I think it would be difficult for the
yeah,
GTV
can I-
committee
Yeah.
to come up with something like that.
Although
I wanna
they'll
go,
reach
I wanna
out.
go where Phil's going. We cannot be the first town looking at social media
Right.
policy.
No,
And I don't think we should be into the.
Well, some towns venture into it without policies,
Well,
which
Okay,
is
but
dangerous.
I'm sure there
There's
is
some town somewhere in
someone,
the United States that's
that-
done this.
I'm sure, thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm
I
sure
can
there's
look-
someone locally who's done it. Can't we get a copy?
Or I can look on the
and tap on
ICMA
them and say,
website to see if they have.
Not
That's-
only that,
I mean, let's not make this
the
overcomplicated.
reason why I say that, okay, is because they also serve as our insurance carrier, PLT. And I'm sure that they have a concern about all the municipalities that they cover coming up with these issues, and they're the ones that are gonna have to carry it, so they're gonna have to deal with this at some point.
And I hope we don't get caught up in the what-if situations. I mean, I think there should be a journalization out there, probably within the LGC, and we can move forward. I mean, sometimes we belabor some of these things, and I'd hate to see this be one of them, because I think.
Online database of government and nonprofit social media policies.
There you go.
What's the source, though? I always look at the source when you use the internet.
I mean,
Socialmediagovernance.com.
There shouldn't be anything, it shouldn't be any.
That's what it says.
But I mean, it shouldn't be anything new out there.
Read from Wikipedia.
Hey, it says written by Phil Devanza. No.
Okay, what are we doing here on this social media? I
Okay.
wanna move on.
I think I got an idea where you want to go, so let me get into contact with LGC. If they don't have it, I'll go to
Yeah.
ICMA and other professional groups, and
Right.
I'm sure
It'll be out there, so.
groups that Neil belongs to regarding IT must have some policies on it.
Right,
Um,
okay.
There's,
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
I mean, right here, just so you know, there's Institute for Local Government, there's a copy for State of Utah social media policy, City of Seattle social media policy, State of California social
Now,
media
wait a minute, City of Seattle social media policy, I don't think I'd really wanna follow.
City of Berkeley.
Berkeley.
That was a joke.
But I'm sure Neil has probably spoken to other communities and about this. I mean, I'm sure he'll have some ideas on this also. I don't see this as
Okay,
I can get your copy.
large project.
I don't think it's your
All
copy
right.
of mine, but.
anything else on old business? If not, committee reports, budget.
Okay, Budget Committee met last week, and they have gone through their first round of going through the budget, and I know Sue took notes in terms of what they reduced, et cetera.
Under 100.
Yeah, they did reduce several lines, some legal lines, postage, some things here and there. And I safe to say that we're gonna go through another round after we go through the schools. But a couple of things that did come up, which I want to discuss with the board, whether it's now or next week, is there was a reduction of $250,000 in the road program. And I had some discussions with the budget committee, one, that we already reduced it $500,000, because if you recall, it was at 200,000, we reduced it to $1.5 million. It should be at 2.4 or 2.5 million. So I have some concerns there, and they then bounced back to me saying, well, if it's the Board of Selectmen's prerogative, if they want to have a separate article for that, that's their prerogative.
What's the vote count on that?
You know what, I wrote down all of them except for.
Do you remember it being close?
Not that close. I
Okay.
think it was like 8-4,
Oh, yeah, it's not, okay, then we'll move on. All right.
maybe 7-5. It wasn't that close. So I think at some point we're gonna. And again, that was the first round. I mean, there could
Did
be.
they go back on that, though?
They always do two
No.
bites, they always says
Confirmation?
two
Did
bites.
they?
at the
Because
apple.
I don't think they did, because I think they.
I think they went back to, because I took out all of my notes on it.
I
The only CIP one I have reduced was the Parks and Rec dump truck by 5,000. But I'll check the minutes.
okay, you might, but I know that came up.
I know they went back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna be an issue that they're gonna be looking at. A couple of things that were that were tabled. One was finance software. A lot of discussion about that, and they wanted some more information from administration, which I received. The thought process was that perhaps we could purchase the code for the software, then hire someone to transition us to a new code. So I did get some information from Town Hall, which I'll convey to the Budget Committee tomorrow. So the thought process from some members of the Budget Committee was that it would be less expensive if we were to go that route. So I will.
But let me ask a question. Is that something that we can go out to bid for?
What do you mean?
Well, if you're gonna
Well,
purchase a
I need
code,
to-
how
I
do
need-
you
I
put an
need to-
RFP together to purchase a code?
No, they're talking about getting the code to our current
Yeah,
software.
getting the code
So
to our
that if
current
they
software.
aren't providing service that we need,
We
we have
can-
the code and we can hire a programmer to go into the code
Who
and
would support this?
expensive.
Who
it
supports?
is very expensive.
And who supports this?
Yeah, in the
after?
meantime, what happens when the 3 months transition,
That's
that
what I mean,
that the system's down?
So, anyway, I was just, tonight I was provided a copy from Derek and Neil with respect to the questions that were raised by the Budget Committee, so I will then give it to them. I mean, I think it's healthy that the Budget Committee is trying to come up with some other solutions, and it's a give and take, and, you know, having read through this, I'm not convinced that it's a viable route to go, but it certainly is an exercise that we needed to go through.
A question, Scott. Is this, as they're going through this budget, are they just looking at those items individually, or is it towards that they're looking to have the total budget at a certain number?
No, not
I'm
yet.
just curious how that's.
Right now, they're looking at everything individually.
Just individual, and they're saying, okay.
Right now, and the predominant thing that I have heard from the vast majority of Budget Committee members is that there's a recognition that all the things that we have requested, that they're necessary, but, you know, I think the common theme that I hear is, I know that it's necessary, I know that it's needed, but we just simply can't do it this year. We have to, you know, and I think, I have to appreciate that. It's not like they're saying this is ridiculous, you know?
No,
So,
the tone's been very
yeah,
respectful, I
very,
thought.
yeah, very respectful, and,
Everyone's thinking of ways to save.
yeah, it's been very productive, and, you know, like I said, we had some discussions with legal lines, and I said to them, I'm like, we don't pick and choose who sues us, you know, from year to year, and, you know, some years you may have a little less, some years you may have a little more, but like on one, I think it was assessing, we know that that's coming, and it's costly for us to defend some of these things, and I
Look
tried.
at the ones that we've had with the ZBA. I mean, the case with the slaughterhouse.
Right. So I tried to, you know, impress upon them that, one, legal fees they're not cheap, and it costs money to do that, and we can't just simply, there was some miscommunication that, well, we need to be more business friendly. I'm like, it's not about being business friendly, it's a matter of, we have to uphold our ordinances and decisions of our planning board or zoning board, et cetera, and those cost money. So, but, you know what, so far, so good.
And you know, one thing though, Scott, with that, is if the decisions of boards that people serve on as volunteers, whether they're elected or appointed, okay? They serve on those boards, and they reach a decision, if those decisions aren't gonna be supported, okay, legally, then people are gonna get to the point,
They're not gonna
why,
serve,
why should I serve? I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna spend all my time, make a decision, and nobody's gonna support it?
Yeah, one of the things that I wanna say is, you know, there was a big question about our fuel lines, and we went back and forth, we tabled it, just like we did this one, and the end result was, it was the same. Because, when the questions were proposed, and Carl was able to respond, you know, the end result was that our budget was justified by the consumption and the cost, you know, per gallon for the fuel. So far, I think the Budget Committee they're doing their job, you know, and, like I said, as I think Sue said, it's been very healthy
Good.
dialogue.
All right. Any questions of Scott? Steve?
Do we have any decisions that we need to make by next Tuesday regarding? Oh, never mind, I'll just leave that.
So this week is just school they're dealing with?
Yeah, this, tomorrow and Thursday, we're gonna be going through school question and answer, and then we start, school deliberations.
Next week?
Yeah.
So they'll get through one round of school
That's-
before they get back to the
that's-
town?
that's
I
what
know
it
where
is,
you're going,
yeah.
but I think
Gotcha.
we will be discussing that later.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I want to know,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, any other questions, Scott? Okay, Conservation Commission?
Conservation Commission met last week. We had a discussion with Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission in regards to establishing a short-range planning for the conservation areas that they want to focus for next year, the following years. The discussion really lent itself next year towards the Roberts Farm project that's being worked on currently. Jack Munn from Southern New Hampshire Planning was at the meeting. He also discussed and sought the support of the Conservation Commission for the Watershed Land Conservation Plan, as well as the 2010 Piscataquag River Management Plan. There were some issues with that plan, the co-occurrence model, there was some incomplete data, so David Neiman will be working with Mr. Munn from Southern Hampshire Planning to kind of address those areas and come up with a version of that plan that would be amenable to the entire commission. We had an open space committee update on the Roberts Farm project. They are applying for grants. There are grants that are being awarded. So that project is moving forward. We reviewed 3 plans, the Maple Ave Elementary School and the Bartlett Elementary School. That was just a preliminary look at the plans. They're going before the planning board. There were some issues and some questions that they would be looking for answers. And we also had a lot line adjustment, map 4, lot 29 and 31. The commission reviewed the plans. They had no issues or concerns. The one thing that did come up under other business, there was a resident that had approached a member of conservation, the South Onkanunik Mountain overlook areas. There were some scenic overlook areas that over the years have grown up, brush and trees.
Exactly what you're talking about.
And there is a resident who is an abutter to the trail, and he volunteered to actually cut some of the trees and brush in that area to open up those overlook areas. Conservation should be contacting the town administrator's office because they recognize that there would need to be some permission from this board before someone could go out there and actually cut on the trail. So you should see something like that in the future.
I know exactly what
Any
he's talking
questions,
about.
Nick?
It does need to be done.
Any other questions, Nick? Okay, HTC did meet last week, and one of the things that they've made very tremendous progress on has been the historic markers. What I'm gonna do is, these are the markers that are completed in production. They're actually, none of these are there's one of each, so I'm gonna pass some on both sides of the room, but don't forget to go, catch what's on.
I'm showing Public Library in Pinardville over here.
Yeah, this is Village Depot, Parker Station, okay, Grassmere Town Hall, Congregational Church, and this one here is a Pinardville Ice House, okay?
Oh, this one says birthplace of Phil DeVanza.
Phil DeVanza.
That one's next.
Where is Phil?
That one's next.
He's in the big 1872.
You've been hanging around Scott too long.
You know what was funny, because when the police chief said that the dog is 9 years old, I was saying, that's Phil's age in dog years, but,
Oh, so
Derek and Elizabeth DeBrule met with
Right.
Historic Society folks for mounting one on the wall, too. You don't have a sample. You didn't bring that?
It might be on that side, I'm not sure. Just because it's on a post does not necessarily mean it's on a post, because it might be the wall mount, okay? Now, these signs are all, they've all gone through production, they're made out of aluminum. They just got they're being finished with a, I don't wanna use the word anti-graffiti, but,
yeah.
a special
Used to
coating
slide
on
on.
them so that they can be, they can be cleaned and they were hoping to start on them today, but that process took taken a little bit longer, so they're done, and they've gone around to all the locations, met with the property owners, as Dave mentioned, got all the, know the exact locations. So Wednesday afternoon, they're planning to be out putting these up, and they should be completed. They say Thursday, but I would figure Friday.
Will this print be readable from
Oh, yeah.
someone standing? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the way they're designed.
All right.
That's the way it's designed.
It's been several years in the making. It's
Well,
nice to see.
yeah, it's been a lot. It's getting the property owners, getting the text, going through the text, getting all of that. So these are the ones that are gonna be going up, and in the upcoming year, next round is gonna be some of the churches.
So how many are there going up now? We got 2
yeah.
here.
Did you guys have these? I think that 2 here.
We got 2 here. Library in
4,
Penardville.
5, 7. Are there any others over there? I've got 3 here in my hands, they got 2,
Okay,
and you've got 2.
so there's 7 going
Yeah,
out.
so, did you have this one on this side?
I like the idea
Yeah,
that
there's
there's a
Parker
photograph there,
Yeah,
as well as the information.
very nice looking.
Yeah,
And the
like I said, they
colors are gonna
aluminum.
be the burgundy and black?
Yep, those are the colors, so that's, what you see is the design. Now, some of them, as David mentioned, you may not may not wind up being on the posts, it may be mounted on the building wall,
Yep.
okay?
Nice. Very nice.
Some ideas.
Okay. Okay?
And
So for
cutting ice.
minutes, do you wanna list the 7 signs? Penardville Library,
Parker Station,
Did you say the Penardville Library?
no, 2 separate. Parker Station,
Yeah.
The Ice House.
Yeah.
yeah.
You got the Ice House,
Ice
Penardville
House.
Ice House,
Okay, listen to-
Grassmere Town Hall,
That's where it's at now.
Congregational Church,
Train station.
Parker Station, which is at the Historical Society,
Mhm.
Village Depot, which is Larry Brown,
Apotheca.
That's 7.
That's 7, okay.
Bernardville Library, Parker Station, Ice House,
Got 'em.
Rasmus Town Hall, Congregational Church, and Village Depot.
okay?
How much for each one of these?
It depends on how many are being made at a
On
time.
average.
Because he has more ideas for you.
I have more ideas for you.
Well, you know, the whole thing of it is the funding.
You could
Right.
always
do
use the
these-
leftover money for the
Right.
250th,
Would you
right?
have $2,800?
Yeah. Yeah, roughly figure about 1,500.
Okay. The reason,
we
the
put
reason
any of
why
these on the
I'm
trail?
asking is that we do have some funds left over, and tomorrow
Historic.
night, we are meeting to discuss, as a committee, we're gonna discuss it. And one of the suggestions was, and we've talked about this in the past, where you go into some communities, whether it be Dublin or Peterborough or many others, where
Welcome.
you have a welcome. And if we had a couple of those that tied into that theme,
Oh, that'd look
it
beautiful.
would be really pretty. Yeah,
The
it'd be nice.
1860
Or even like one in.
railroad location. Put a sign up every half mile, put a sign up.
Mile markers.
Same exact look.
To pave the area to get to it,
Yeah,
so at least you.
Yeah,
Awesome, yeah.
exactly. Maybe like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right from
Yeah.
Surratt Field, right?
For the St. A's welcome.
Oh, the landfill.
It's the landfill, the historic landfill.
That's historic.
Wait, well, which one? The historic one is up here in the village,
Yes, right.
okay? Any questions on HCC? If not, our next one is Rail Trail.
And I already made that report.
Excellent.
See what he did? He did that on the new business.
See the same thing?
Okay. Now, the big thing
Non-public.
is, 250th?
No, no, it can't be. It
There
can't
is, there's a
be.
meeting tomorrow night
See?
at 6 o'clock.
Report next week.
There will be a report, and what we are discussing is we're closing out our financials. And we, as I said before, we did commit monies to try to finish off the funding for the statue. And then we're gonna discuss what options, and I'm gonna bring this idea to them as well.
We must have the cost of that, the average. I can have Derek look
No, I
at that.
say the average is figure about 15.
I can call Tom and talk to him
I'll-
about it.
I validated that today.
And Elizabeth
okay.
knows it probably, so.
A sign with a single post is on the order of $1,500.
You look surprised. Very nice signs.
Well, you know what the ones that state markers are?
I didn't say anything, I just
Big
said.
Motion to.
Okay,
No.
do we have any other public business?
Nope.
If we have no public business, I believe we have some non-public business under RSA 91-A:3, legal.
So move.
Is there a second?
Just a second.
Second by Steve, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
It's unanimous, roll call?
Yes.
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 Okay, we are in non-public session, and I don't believe we're gonna have any public business after this non-public,
Right.
okay? So with that, we will be adjourning when we come out of non-public. And we are in non-public, and